3 Roman shadows are standing on the Carthage docks at dawn, and they aren't here for the sunrise. They've been counting your warships for 2 hours with the cold, hungry eyes of a debt collector looking at a foreclosed house. They haven't bought a single bag of grain. They're just measuring the thickness of your hull. For 3 centuries, Carthage has survived on one unspoken rule. Everyone is making too much money to start a war. It's a gentleman's agreement to pretend we aren't all enemies. But today, the Romans stopped pretending. They aren't checking prices anymore. They're calculating the cost of your funeral. By noon, they'll be gone with a report that isn't a trade ledger. It's a death warrant. The real question isn't what they saw on the docks. It's which official in this palace already took the Roman gold to look the other way, while the vultures started circling. If you can spot a vulture before it starts circling your own house, join the council by subscribing. Signal your position and the hour. We need to know who's watching the docks with us tonight. You step onto the Carthage harbor docks at dawn, ledger tucked under one arm, and the Mediterranean breeze carries salt and cedar into your lungs. The sky is splitting into layers, deep purple at the horizon, gold rising behind it, the kind of light that makes even commerce feel like ceremony. It doesn't last. The moment the sun clears the horizon, the temperature shifts, and the day's work begins. The docks are already awake. Dock workers move between the stone quays in practiced rhythm, ropes coiling, amphorae rolling on wooden frames, voices calling out cargo weights in Punic that echoes off the marble warehouses. The harbor stretches wide, protected by the twin arms of the breakwater, and inside that sheltered crescent, the water is dark glass reflecting the morning sky. Outside, beyond the harbor mouth, the open Mediterranean is rougher, white caps visible even from here. The first purple sail appears at the harbor entrance, then another, then 3 more in formation, Sicilian grain ships. You expected them yesterday, but the wind doesn't care about your schedule. They're here now, and that means the day's first negotiation starts before you've finished your first count. A dock worker jogs toward you, sandals slapping stone. His tunic is already stained with oil from the first amphora inspections. He stops 3 paces away, breathing hard. "Ships from Sicily arriving," he says in Punic, gesturing toward the harbor mouth. "Cargo manifest, you say. Grain and olive oil, 20 amphorae." You glance at the ledger in your hand, then at the warehouses behind you. Warehouse 3 has space. Warehouse 2 is still clearing yesterday's Spanish copper. The decision takes 2 seconds. "Direct them to Warehouse 3. He nods, and turns, without another word. You watch him sprint back toward the quay, where the first ship is already maneuvering into position. The crew is calling out depths, testing the water with weighted ropes. The harbor master's assistants are on the dock, bronze tally sticks already in hand, ready to count every single amphora as it comes off the ship. That count determines the tariff. The tariff determines whether this shipment makes you money or just keeps you alive until the next one. Purple-sailed ships arrive at dawn. The arrivals are predictable. The cargo is valuable. Your counting begins immediately. This is how commercial empires maintain rhythm. You move down the dock toward the ship. The smell of the harbor shifts as you walk. Salt giving way to fish, then to the sharper tang of pitch from the shipyards on the eastern edge of the harbor. Somewhere beyond the warehouses, you can hear the rhythmic hammering of bronze fittings being shaped for naval construction. The sound is constant in Carthage. The city builds ships the way other cities bake bread, endlessly, because survival depends on it. The first amphora comes off the Sicilian ship. 2 men carry it between them, moving carefully on the wet stone. Olive oil. You can tell by the shape. Narrow at the base, wider at the shoulder, sealed with cork and wax. The dock worker sets it down, and the harbor master's assistant makes the first mark on his tally stick. Click. 1. You open your ledger. The page is covered in your grandfather's shorthand. a private notation system he invented decades ago, when he realized that commercial advantage comes from knowing things other people don't. Half the symbols are Punic, the other half are Greek, Phoenician, and a few he made up entirely. You learned it as a child. Nobody else can read it without a week of translation. This has saved you more than once when a competitor tried to steal a contract by reading over your shoulder. The sun is fully up now. The gold light is gone, replaced by the flat white glare of a North African morning. You can feel the heat starting to build in the stones under your feet. By midday, the docks will be unbearable. By sunset, the cool will return, and the second wave of ships will arrive, the ones that timed their approach to avoid the afternoon wind. The second amphora comes off the ship. Click. 2. You watch the count, cross-referencing it against the captain's manifest. 20 amphorae, he said. You'll believe it when you see it. Captains round up. Dock workers round down. Your job is to stand here and make sure the number that goes in your ledger is the number that actually exists in physical space. The Suffet's daughter walks past on the upper dock. You see her in profile, veiled, flanked by 2 attendants, moving with the deliberate slowness of someone who knows she's being watched. She doesn't look at the ships. She doesn't look at the workers. She looks at nothing, which means she's looking at everything. Her family controls half the shipping routes in the Western Mediterranean. When she appears in the harbor, it's never for the view. You return your attention to the amphorae. Click. 3. Click. 4. The morning wind shifts direction. The harbor smells like wet rope now, and somewhere in the distance a gull shrieks. Not the picturesque cry of poetry, but the aggressive territorial scream of a bird that has seen too many fishermen and learned exactly where the discarded catch gets thrown. You've watched gulls here fight over fish guts with the tactical precision of infantry commanders. They win more often than they lose. The counting continues. Click. 5. Click. 6. The rhythm becomes meditative. Each amphora lifted, inspected, tallied. Your back is starting to ache from standing in one position. The stone under your feet radiates stored cold from the night, but that will reverse in another hour. By mid-morning, this same stone will be hot enough to blister bare skin. The Sicilian ship is unloaded by the time the sun clears the warehouse rooftops. 20 amphorae. The count was accurate. You sign the manifest, the dock worker countersigns, and the ship's captain nods once before turning back to his crew. No conversation. No negotiation. Grain and oil from Sicily is standard cargo. The price is the price. The only variable is whether the amphorae arrive intact or shattered. You walk away from the docks, moving inland between the rows of warehouses that line the harbor district. The morning heat is building, but inside the covered walkways the air is cooler. Marble columns and high ceilings designed to keep the temperature bearable. The architecture here is Phoenician precision. Everything built to last. Everything built to maximize airflow. Everything built to protect the cargo that keeps the city alive. Warehouse 12. You stop at the entrance, ledger still in hand. The doors are open. Inside, the space is dim, lit only by the shafts of sunlight that cut through the high windows near the roof. Stacks of timber fill the interior. Lebanese cedar, imported at enormous cost, reserved for the most expensive contracts. Naval construction. Temple repair. Wealthy villas on Biriza Hill. The kind of wood that smells like money. You step inside. The scent hits immediately. Sharp, resinous, almost sweet. Cedar. The smell is so distinctive that after 17 years in this business, you can assess timber quality with your nose before you ever touch the wood. This batch is premium. No rot. No insect damage. The grain is tight and even, the color consistent. Whoever selected this shipment in Byblos knew what they were doing. A warehouse keeper emerges from the back, wiping his hands on a cloth. He's Libyan, like most of the dock workers. second-generation Carthaginian, born in the city but still carrying the desert in his voice. "The Lebanese shipment," he says in Punic, gesturing at the stacks. "Quality assessment, you say?" He nods. "Premium grade, minimal knots." You walk between the stacks, running one hand along the surface of the nearest beam. The wood is smooth, already planed, no splinters, no rough patches. The harbour master will want to see this before the naval contracts are finalized, but you already know the assessment. This timber will sell at the top price bracket. Reserve half for naval contracts, you say. The keeper makes a note on his own tablet. Wax and stylus, the cheap version of your ledger. He doesn't argue. He doesn't question. The naval shipyards pay faster than private buyers, and faster payment means better margins. Everyone in this warehouse district understands the math. Cedar wood from Lebanon fills the warehouse. The scent is distinctive. The timber is expensive. Your nose has learned to assess quality through smell alone. You leave the warehouse and continue through the district. The streets here are clean, swept every morning by city workers, part of the endless maintenance that keeps Carthage functioning. The marble columns that line the covered walkways are Numidian stone, quarried inland, and hauled here at the kind of expense that only an empire can justify. This is what commercial dominance looks like. Stone, cedar, bronze, and the administrative machinery to keep it all moving. At the corner where the warehouse district meets the temple quarter, you stop. The temple of Tanit rises on the hill above you, white limestone, crowned with the eternal smoke of sacrifice. The priests are already at work. You can hear the faint sound of chanting carried on the morning breeze. Prayer and commerce. Commerce and prayer. In Carthage, the two are inseparable. A merchant passes you, heading toward the harbor with a small retinue, 2 assistants carrying wax tablets, 1 slave carrying a strongbox. You recognize him. Hanno the grain importer, competitor, occasional ally, permanent pain in your neck. He sees you, nods once, and keeps walking. No words, no pleasantries. You're both too busy. The sun is higher now. The morning cool is gone. You can feel sweat beginning to form under your tunic, the kind of heat that will only get worse as the day progresses. By noon, anyone with sense will be inside, waiting for the afternoon to pass. But noon is still 2 hours away, and you have 3 more warehouses to inspect before the harbor master's tariff meeting. You turn back toward the docks. The smell of cedar fades behind you, replaced by salt and fish and the sharp metallic tang of the bronze workshops. Somewhere in the distance, an elephant trumpets. One of the war elephants kept in the enclosures near the naval yards. The sound is low and resonant, carrying across the harbor like a warning. The covered walkway narrows here, forcing you to step aside as a cart loaded with Egyptian papyrus rolls past. The driver doesn't acknowledge you. His attention is fixed on the uneven paving stones, the cart's wheels protesting with every rotation. Papyrus is fragile cargo. One wrong turn and a month's profit becomes expensive litter. You keep walking. The ledger in your hand is filling with notations. Your grandfather's shorthand is cramped now. You've been writing smaller to fit more information on each page. Ink costs money. Blank pages cost money. Even the act of recording profit is an expense you track, with the same precision you use for everything else. The harbor master's office is in the Eastern Administrative Complex, 1 level above the docks, with a wide window that overlooks the entire harbor. You arrive precisely at the appointed hour. Not early, not late. Arriving early signals desperation. Arriving late signals disrespect. The harbor master is a man who respects neither. The office is spare. A single desk. A shelf lined with cargo manifests dating back 3 decades. A bronze scale for weighing silver. And on the desk, arranged in perfect parallel rows, the bronze tally sticks. The harbor master is seated behind the desk. He's Libyan, like half the administrative class in Carthage. Weather-worn skin, grey beard trimmed to military precision, eyes that have watched 1,000 merchants try to negotiate their way out of tariffs, and have never once been impressed. His name is Eshmunamash, but everyone calls him the harbour master, because his title is more important than his name. He gestures to the chair across from him. You sit. The ledger goes on your lap. The harbour master picks up one of the bronze tally sticks and turns it slowly in his hands. Click. He sets it down, picks up another. Click. The sound is deliberate. Mathematical. The tally sticks are how Carthage counts everything. Cargo, tariffs, debt, loyalty. Each stick has notches carved along its length. Each notch represents a unit of measurement. Weight, volume, value. The harbour master reads them the way you read your grandfather's shorthand. Instantly, without thinking, because the language of commerce is his native tongue. The tariff schedule has adjusted, he says in Punic. His voice is flat, neutral, the kind of tone that delivers bad news without flinching. You keep your face still. By what percentage? He picks up another stick. Click, click. 15% increase on metals. 15%. Your mind is already calculating. The Iberian tin contracts. The bronze fittings you've been sourcing for the naval shipyards. The profit margins were thin before. Now they're thinner. Possibly non-existent, depending on whether you can renegotiate with the Spanish suppliers. This affects my Iberian contracts significantly, you say. The harbour master nods once. Click. The city requires revenue. That's it. No apology. No explanation. The city requires revenue, and you will pay it, because the alternative is losing your trading license and spending the rest of your career watching someone else stand in this office and absorb the same news. The harbour master has updated his bronze tally sticks. This is administrative language. What it means is, tariffs have increased and you will pay more. While he clicks those sticks like a mathematical bone oracle. The clicking will haunt your profit margins. You adjust the ledger on your lap. The page is open to the Iberian tin projections. Your grandfather's shorthand, columns of figures, profit estimates that are now 15% too optimistic. You'll need to recalculate tonight. You'll need to send word to the Spanish suppliers. You'll need to hope they're willing to absorb part of the increase, because if they're not, the entire contract chain collapses. The harbour master sets down the tally stick. The clicking stops. He leans back in his chair and regards you with the expression of a man who has delivered this news 100 times and will deliver it 100 more. Your family trades honestly, he says. It's not a compliment, it's a statement of record. The tariffs are not personal. You nod. Understood. The Sicilian grain shipment this morning, 20 amphorae, recorded. Another nod. The meeting is over. You stand, ledger tucked back under your arm. The harbour master is already reaching for the next set of tally sticks. Another merchant, another tariff adjustment, the endless rotation of commerce and extraction that keeps Carthage alive. You leave the office and step back into the sunlight. The harbour is fully awake now. Ships unloading, workers hauling cargo, bronze hammering echoing from the shipyards. The temple of Tanit's smoke rises in a steady column against the blue sky. The war elephants are quiet for now, but you can see their enclosures from here. Massive timber structures on the eastern edge of the harbour, surrounded by handlers and the kind of infrastructure that signals a city preparing for something larger than trade. The heat is brutal. The marble walkways are starting to radiate warmth. You head back toward the warehouse district, moving through the covered pathways where the temperature is slightly more bearable. The ledger is heavy in your hands. The numbers inside are no longer accurate. Tonight, you'll rewrite them. Tomorrow, you'll negotiate. The day after that, you'll count another shipment and absorb another adjustment. A temple attendant passes you in the corridor, carrying a clay vessel wrapped in linen. The vessel is still warm. You can see the heat distortion in the air above it. Libation oil, probably, or incense. Something bound for the afternoon rituals. The attendant's sandals are dusted with ash from the temple fires. You can smell it as he passes, bitter, resinous, mixed with something floral you don't recognize. This is how empire works. This is how you survive it. One tally stick at a time. The assistant arrives before you ask for him. He's carrying a wax tablet and the specific expression of someone who has already counted the Sicilian shipment twice and does not want to count it a third time. You do not blame him. The amphorae are stacked in rows that extend deeper into the warehouse than the morning light reaches. Each one is sealed. Each one needs verification. Each one represents olive oil that crossed the Mediterranean without sinking, which in commercial terms is already a minor miracle. You start at the western wall. The amphorae are clay, heavy, and shaped like teardrops with handles. Your hands find the first seal. You check it against the manifest. The wax is intact. The mark is Sicilian. You move to the next one. The Sicilian count, the assistant says in Punic. Verify each amphora seal, you say. He nods. His stylus is already moving across the tablet. You are working in parallel now. You on the physical inspection, him on the record. The rhythm is familiar. You have done this count in winter storms and summer heat. The process does not change. The amphorae do not care about weather. Expected total, he asks. 20 confirmed. Mark any discrepancies. The assistant moves down the row. You follow 3 paces behind, hands checking seals, eyes scanning for cracks. The warehouse smells like clay dust and old rope. The floor is packed earth. Your boots leave prints that will be gone by afternoon when the laborers start moving cargo to the loading platforms. Amphora 7 has a crack along the shoulder. Not enough to lose the oil, but enough to note. You call it out. The assistant marks it. The rhythm continues. You are counting olive oil amphorae. The counting is endless. The oil is Sicilian. Your hands are developing permanent calluses from ceramic handling. Amphora 12. Seal intact, Sicilian mark, move on. The light shifts as you work deeper into the warehouse. The entrance is a bright rectangle behind you now, and the rows ahead fade into shadow. You do not need much light for this. The seals are tactile. Your fingers know the difference between intact wax and tampered wax before your eyes confirm it. Amphora 15, intact. Amphora 16, intact. The assistant is writing faster now. He has found the rhythm too. His tablet will be full before you finish the row, and then he will start a second one. By sunset you will have a complete record of the Sicilian olive oil shipment, and the harbor master will have no reason to question your tariff calculation. This is the goal. This is always the goal. The air is cooler here in the back of the warehouse, where the sun never reaches. The clay amphorae are cool to the touch. Your fingertips register temperature before texture, cold wax, then the ridges of the seal pattern, then the smoothness of uncracked ceramic. Amphora 18 shows a different mark, not Sicilian. You stop. The assistant stops. You examine the seal more carefully. The wax is the same color, but the stamp is wrong. The pattern is Syracusan, not Sicilian mainland. This is a problem. Not a disaster, but a problem. Mark it, you say. Syracusan seal, verify origin on the captain's log. The assistant writes. You move on. Amphora 19 is correct. Amphora 20 is correct. The count is complete. 20 amphorae. 1 cracked. 1 with the wrong origin stamp. 18, verified as contracted. You step back from the row. Your hands ache. The calluses are real. The assistant closes his tablet. The wax is still soft enough to take corrections if the captain's log shows an explanation for the Syracusan seal. If it does not, the tariff calculation will need adjustment, and the harbor master will want to know why. You walk back toward the warehouse entrance. The bright rectangle grows larger. The morning has moved forward while you were counting. The docks are active now. You can hear the sound of ropes being secured, the rhythm of laborers chanting as they move cargo, the distant splash of something heavy hitting the water. The Syracusan seal is a question. You will answer it before the harbor master asks. Your ledger is waiting. The shipyard is north of the main commercial docks, separated by a limestone ridge that runs parallel to the harbor. You take the upper path because it is faster, and because the lower path floods when the tide comes in. The morning is warming. The sun is off your right shoulder now, and the sea beyond the harbor mouth is a flat line of silver that extends to Sicily. The sound reaches you before you see the enclosures. It is not a roar, it is a trumpet, low, resonant and carrying. The war elephants are awake. You pause at the ridge. Below, the shipyard spreads across a half-mile of terraced stone platforms. Ships are being built in parallel, keels laid, ribs attached, planking hammered into place. The work is constant. Carthage builds ships the way other cities build bread ovens. The shipyard foreman is a broad-shouldered Numidian, who runs the operation with the precision of a military campaign. You have done business with him before. He pays on time and does not negotiate after the contract is signed. The elephant enclosures are visible to the east. They were not there last year, now they are. Stone walls, reinforced gates, and the unmistakable shape of a dozen war elephants moving in the morning light. The trumpets echo again. The sound is normal. The sound is also unsettling. You descend toward the shipyard. The foreman sees you coming. He is standing near a half-finished trireme, examining a bronze fitting that is not yet installed. He does not wave. He waits. This is his way. You approach. The elephant enclosures expand, he says in Punic. Military preparation increases. You observe. He nods. His eyes are on the fitting in his hand, not on you. The bronze is cast in the shape of a ram's head, designed to reinforce the bow where the ship's ram will be mounted. The casting is clean, the detail is sharp. This is not decorative work, this is structural. Bronze fittings needed, he says, for the new ships, for the conversions. You look at the trireme behind him. The conversion is visible. Reinforced ribs, heavier planking, mounting points for equipment that was not part of the original design. This is not a merchant ship. This is a warship being prepared for something specific. I can supply naval equipment, you say. The foreman sets the fitting down on a workbench. He turns to face you fully now. His expression does not change, but his attention has shifted. You have his interest. Quality maintained, he asks. Through careful sourcing, Iberian tin, Cypriot copper, ratios confirmed by foundry testing. He considers this. The shipyard behind him is hammering. The sound is rhythmic, industrial, and unceasing. Bronze fittings, iron nails, timber planking, the materials of naval power being assembled in quantities that suggest preparation, not maintenance. War elephant trumpets echo from the enclosures. This is normal, this is also unsettling. Your commercial calculations now include military infrastructure. The trumpets are a reminder of Empire's other face. The foreman picks up a wax tablet from the workbench. He hands it to you. The tablet lists quantities, bronze fittings, iron brackets, copper sheeting. The numbers are large. The timeline is tight. The contract, if you take it, will consume most of your available capital for the next 2 months. Delivery schedule, you ask. Phased. First shipment in 3 weeks. Final delivery before winter. You scan the tablet again. The quantities make sense for the number of ships under construction. The timeline is aggressive but achievable. The risk is in the capital commitment. If the harbor master raises tariffs again before you deliver, the margin disappears. If the Iberian tin supply delays, you miss the deadline, and the foreman will source elsewhere next time. The air smells like sawdust and heated metal. A forge is operating somewhere below the terraces, out of sight but audible. The steady percussion of hammer on anvil, the hiss of hot bronze meeting water, the smell of scorched wood drifts up from the platforms, where hull planks are being shaped with fire and pressure. You hand the tablet back. I will confirm by tomorrow, pricing based on current tariff rates, with adjustment clause for changes beyond 15%. The foreman nods. This is acceptable. He sets the tablet down and returns his attention to the bronze fitting. The negotiation is complete. You are dismissed, but not rudely. This is simply how he works. You turn back toward the upper path. The elephant trumpets sound again as you climb. The enclosures are larger than they were. This shipyard is busier than it was. Carthage is preparing for something. You do not know what. You do not need to know what. You need to deliver bronze fittings on schedule and collect payment before the next tariff adjustment. The limestone ridge is warm under your boots. The harbor spreads below you, purple sails moving in the morning wind. The city is a machine. You are one part of it. The machine is accelerating. The covered market is in the lower city, built into the hillside where the commercial district meets the residential quarter. The roof is supported by marble columns taken from somewhere else, Syracuse probably, or one of the Greek cities that lost a war and contributed architecture as the settlement. The columns are too fine for a market. They belong in a temple. Here, they hold up cedar beams and tile roofing that keeps the sun off the merchants and the rain off the goods. You enter from the eastern arcade. The market is already active. Punic voices rise and fall in negotiation. The air smells like cinnamon, saltfish, and the specific sourness of Egyptian papyrus, stored too long in humid conditions. You move through the central aisle, past spice merchants and fabric dealers, toward the section where metals are traded. The merchant you are looking for is standing near the back, beside a table covered with samples, copper ingots, tin bars, iron nails arranged in precise rows. He is older than you, grey-bearded, and wearing the kind of linen that indicates success without announcing it. You have heard his name in the harbor. Your Iberian tin reputation precedes you, apparently. He sees you approaching. His expression does not shift, he waits. Your Iberian tin reputation precedes you, he says in Punic. Quality maintained through careful sourcing, you reply. He nods. This is the correct answer. He picks up a tin bar from the table and hands it to you. The weight is right. The surface is clean. No oxidation, no impurities visible. You turn it in the light. The metal is pale gray, almost white, and the casting mark is Iberian. This is good tin. This is also expensive tin. Current rates, he asks. Competitive given harbor tariff increases. The merchant sets the tin bar back on the table. He picks up a copper ingot next, examines it briefly, then sets it down in a different position. This is not random. He is thinking. The arrangement of metal on the table is his abacus. You wait. The market noise continues around you. A fabric merchant 2 stalls over is arguing about dye quality in Phoenician. Someone is frying something in oil nearby. The smoke drifts through the covered market in layers, visible where it crosses the shafts of sunlight falling between the columns. The merchant looks up. Bronze fittings, naval grade, can you deliver before winter? This is the shipyard contract, or a version of it. The foreman must have spread the word that he is sourcing. The merchant in front of you is offering to intermediate. He will take your tin, mix it with his copper, cast the fittings, and deliver to the shipyard. You would receive payment now. He would assume the risk of delivery. The offer is reasonable. It is also less profitable than delivering directly to the foreman yourself. But it is faster, and it removes the capital risk if tariffs increase. Delivery timeline, you ask? 3 weeks for the first batch. Ongoing supply through harvest season. You consider this, the merchant is watching you without appearing to watch you. His hands are resting on the table, not moving, but his attention is focused. This negotiation will determine whether you become a regular supplier or a one-time transaction. The marble columns around you rise into shadow. The market roof is high enough that sound disperses before it becomes overwhelming, but you can still hear the layered voices of 100 negotiations happening simultaneously. Carthage is a city that runs on bargaining. Every transaction is a test. Every test is an opportunity to prove competence or reveal weakness. The tile roof above filters the sunlight into geometric patterns on the stone floor. The temperature here is 10 degrees cooler than the street outside. Your tunic, damp from the walk uphill, is starting to dry in the shade. The cinnamon smell is stronger near the back of the market, where the spice merchants store their inventory in sealed ceramic jars. You meet the merchant's eyes. I can supply tin at current rates. With delivery guarantee through winter. Bronze casting is your operation. Quality control is shared. I inspect samples at each phase. The merchant's expression shifts slightly. This is not quite what he offered, but it is close enough. He is getting reliable tin. You are getting ongoing payment without the casting risk. The compromise is functional. Accepted, he says. First delivery in 10 days. Payment on receipt. You nod. The negotiation is complete. No handshake, no ceremony. The merchant picks up a wax tablet and begins recording the terms. You wait while he writes. The market continues around you. The sunlight through the columns has shifted slightly. The morning is moving toward midday. The merchant hands you the tablet. The terms are written in Punic commercial shorthand. You read them. They match what was agreed. You hand the tablet back. He will file it with the market overseer before sunset. The contract is now official. You turn toward the eastern arcade. The walk back to the harbor will take 20 minutes. Your ledger needs updating. The Syracusan seal question still needs resolution. The foreman's contract still needs confirmation. The day is accumulating decisions faster than you can record them. The covered market fades behind you. The marble columns catch the light one last time as you exit into the street. The lower city is warm, crowded and moving. You move with it. The Greek scribe is working at the marble ledger table when you arrive. His hands move without pause across the papyrus. Straight lines, perfect spacing, the kind of handwriting that looks like it was carved rather than written. He doesn't look up when you approach. He knows the sound of your sandals on the limestone floor. The Sicilian Manifest, you say. He nods once. Pulls a second sheet toward him. His stylus moves in silence for 3 lines before he speaks. The route to Massalia. You stop. The manifest in your hand suddenly weighs more than it should. You sailed it, you say. 3 times as captain. His stylus pauses. Before. The word hangs in the air like smoke from the purple dye workshops. Thick, staining, impossible to ignore. Your memory serves my commerce now, you say quietly. He doesn't look up. His stylus resumes its movement across the papyrus, with the same perfect precision as before. Yes, he says, it does. The silence that follows is not comfortable. It is the silence of 2 people who understand exactly what has been said and what has not been said and what will never be said, because saying it out loud would require both of you to inhabit the loss directly, and neither of you has chosen to do that. You place the Sicilian Manifest on the table. He pulls it toward him without a word. His eyes scan the cargo list. Tin ingots, Sicilian wheat, bronze fittings, stamped with the harbor master's seal. His finger stops at the 3rd line. The tin route, he says, through the Pillars of Hercules, north coast of Iberia. The deposits are in the river valleys inland from the trading posts. You know this how? I sailed tin routes for 8 years before Carthage acquired me. His tone is flat, not bitter, not resigned. Just factual, the way a man might describe the weather or the tide schedule. The Iberians mine it, the Phoenicians transport it, the Greeks used to compete for the contracts. Past tense. The Greek scribe has perfect memory of shipping routes. This is useful. It is also tragic. He remembers every port he sailed to as a free man. Now he records your cargo manifests. The irony is not lost on either of you. You watch him work. His handwriting never falters. Every letter is identical to the one before it, as if he copied them from a template that exists only in his mind. He learned this precision somewhere, likely in a Greek port city where scribes were trained the way soldiers were trained, with repetition and discipline, and the threat of unemployment if their hand wavered. Now he works for a Carthaginian merchant family that pays him in room and board, and the quiet dignity of not being sold to someone worse. The tin ingots on this manifest, he says without looking up. The weight matches the Iberian standard, not the Sicilian. Someone is transshipping through Sicily to avoid the direct Iberian tariff. You hadn't noticed that. The weights were close enough that you'd assumed Sicilian origin. But he's right. The measurements are slightly off, just enough to reveal the route. How much does that save? 4% on the harbour master's tariff scale, enough to matter if you're moving volume. You make a mental note. Not about the tariff. You already knew the rates. The note is about Lysander. About the fact that his knowledge of Mediterranean shipping routes is worth more than his freedom, and that this is the bargain Carthage has made with him, and that he has accepted it with the same flat precision he uses to record your cargo weights. The morning light shifts across the table. Dust moves through the air in slow spirals. Outside, the harbour is alive with the sound of ships unloading, merchants negotiating, workers hauling crates up the stone steps toward the warehouses. Inside, the only sound is the scratch of his stylus on papyrus, and the occasional rustle of the manifest pages as he turns them. The wheat shipment, he says, Sicilian, confirmed by the grade. The bronze fittings, Carthaginian manufacture, exported to Sicily, and now returning. This suggests a completed trade loop. Someone is balancing imports and exports to minimize tariff exposure across multiple ports. Someone is, you say. He doesn't smile. Doesn't acknowledge the implication. Just continues recording the manifest with the same perfect handwriting he's used since the first day he arrived in your family's warehouse, 7 months ago, when the harbour master's assistant brought him to your door and said the Suffet's office had approved the transfer. You didn't ask what Lysander had done to end up in Carthage. You didn't ask which battle he'd been captured in, or which ship he'd sailed, or what his life had been before the war turned him into an asset instead of a captain. You asked if he could read Punic and Greek and if his handwriting was legible, and if he understood Mediterranean trade routes. He said yes to all three. That was the entire interview. Now he works at this table 6 days a week, recording manifests and tracking shipments, and occasionally offering observations about routes and tariffs and cargo weights that you would have missed on your own. His knowledge is flawless. His memory is absolute. The cost of that knowledge is a life he will never sail again, and he carries that cost the way a man carries a scar. Visible, permanent, no longer painful because the wound has long since closed. The ink on his fingers has stained them permanently, dark crescents under each nail, the mark of his trade now, not the calluses of rope work. He wipes his stylus on a cloth without looking at his hands. You leave him to his work. The Sicilian manifest will be complete by midday. The numbers will be accurate. The routes will be verified. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Lysander will remember the shape of Massalia's harbour and the sound of Greek voices calling orders across a deck he once commanded, and he will continue recording your cargo weights with perfect handwriting and the specific expression of a man who has made peace with irony. The door closes behind you with a soft click. Outside, the harbour is waiting. The tin shipment needs to be moved to the southern warehouse before the afternoon heat makes the workers slow. The harbour master's office will open at midday, and you need to present the updated manifests before the tariff schedule shifts again. The day continues, the ships unload. The commerce flows through Carthage like water through a channel, constant and measured and profitable for those who understand the rhythm. Lysander Stylus scratches on. The harbour master's office is already open when you arrive. His door faces the main dock, which means he sees every ship before you do. This is not accidental. The bronze tally sticks are laid out on his desk in perfect rows, 7 columns, each representing a different cargo category, each stick marked with notches that only he can read at full speed. He looks up when you enter, doesn't smile, doesn't need to. Your family trades honestly, he says. You stop just inside the doorway. This is not the opening you expected. The harbour master does not begin conversations with compliments. He begins them with numbers. 7 years under your authority, you say carefully. He nods once, picks up 3 of the bronze sticks and sets them aside, a gesture that means something, though you're not yet sure what. The tariffs are not personal, he says. I understand revenue requirements. This is why you prosper. The conversation ends there. Not because there's nothing more to say, but because everything that needed to be said has been said, and continuing would only dilute the message. He pulls the updated manifest toward him, scans it. His finger moves down the cargo list with the same speed Lysander Stylus moves across papyrus. Practiced, precise, missing nothing. Tin ingots, he says. Sicilian manifest, Iberian weights. You don't flinch, don't explain. The weights are legal, the route is legal. If he has a problem with transshipping, he'll state it. He doesn't state it. The wheat is Sicilian, he says. Confirmed. The bronze fittings are Carthaginian. This balances your import-export ratio cleanly. That was the intent. It shows planning. He sets the manifest down, reaches for one of the bronze sticks, counts notches with his thumb. 15% increase on metals. Effective today, the city requires revenue. There it is, the reason the tally sticks were rearranged. The reason he opened with acknowledgement instead of numbers. He's telling you the increase is coming before it hits the official posted rates, which means you have maybe 2 hours to move the tin shipment through processing before the new tariff applies. Appreciated, you say. He nods, picks up the next stick, clicks it once against the desk, not for calculation, just for punctuation. The Iberian captain arrives tomorrow, he says. His tin contracts are significant. You should be prepared. I am. Good. He returns the sticks to their rows. The conversation is over. The information has been delivered. You're dismissed without being told to leave, which is the harbour master's version of warmth. You step back into the sunlight. The docks are busier now. Mid-morning, the second wave of ships unloading, workers moving in coordinated lines between the vessels and the warehouses. The air smells like salt and cedar, and the faint copper tang of fresh cast bronze fittings stacked in crates near the southern warehouse. 7 years. You've known the harbour master for 7 years. You've paid his tariffs on time, balanced your manifests cleanly, never tried to bribe him or bypass his authority, or pretend the rules didn't apply to your family. In return, he gives you information 2 hours before everyone else gets it, and he starts conversations with acknowledgement instead of extraction. This is not friendship. This is not trust. This is commercial respect, which in Carthage is worth more than either. You cross the main dock toward the southern warehouse. The tin ingots are still sitting in temporary storage, waiting for the workers to move them. 2 hours before the tariff increases. The workers move fast when you pay them to move fast, and you're about to pay them exactly that. The lead worker sees you coming, straightens. wipes his hands on his tunic. The tin shipment, you say, processing by midday, I'll double the rate. He doesn't ask why, doesn't need to. He turns and shouts to the crew in Libyan. Short, sharp commands that send them moving toward the crates immediately. The harbor master's bronze sticks click in your memory like a heartbeat. 15%. Metals. Effective today. You just saved your family 3 months of profit margins, because a weather-worn Libyan with absolute authority over dock commerce decided to give you 2 hours of warning instead of none. A younger merchant crosses your path near the warehouse entrance. You recognize him. Third son of a trading family that's been operating for maybe 18 months. He's carrying a bronze shipment manifest. He's walking toward the harbor master's office at a leisurely pace. He doesn't know about the tariff increase yet. In 2 hours, his profit margin on that bronze shipment will evaporate, and he will spend the evening trying to figure out which of his competitors knew first. You say nothing. Keep walking. The tally sticks click. The workers lift. The tin moves. The commerce continues, constant and measured and profitable for those who understand the rhythm and pay attention when the harbor master rearranges his desk. The covered market is in the lower city, built into the hillside where the commercial district meets the residential quarter. The marble columns were imported from Greece 2 generations ago. Someone's idea of what prosperity should look like, carved in stone that doesn't exist anywhere in North Africa. They're impressive. They're also heavy enough that nobody's moving them, which means they've become permanent fixtures of commerce rather than decoration. You're standing beneath the 3rd column from the eastern entrance when the Iberian captain arrives. He's early. This is a test. Merchants who arrive early are checking to see if you're disorganized, distracted, or stupid enough to be caught unprepared. You've been standing here for 20 minutes already, which means the test has failed before it started. The tin price concerns me, he says in Punic. His accent is coastal Iberian. Hard consonants, clipped vowels, the kind of speech pattern that comes from shouting orders across a deck in wind. Quality justifies premium, you say. He stops 3 paces away, doesn't sit, doesn't move closer. The distance is deliberate. It keeps the negotiation formal, which means he hasn't decided yet whether this meeting is worth his time. My suppliers offer less, he says. Your suppliers lack my harbor master relationship. His expression shifts. Not much. Just enough to show he's recalculating. Valid point, he says. The negotiation is over. He knows it. You know it. Everything else is just documentation. He sits across from you at the stone table, pulls a wax tablet from his belt and sets it between you. His handwriting is worse than Lysander's. Functional, fast, the kind of script that prioritizes speed over beauty, because beauty doesn't matter when you're recording cargo weights in a harbor that charges by the hour. Tin ingots, he says, Iberian standard weights, monthly shipments. The price holds for 6 months, or until the Suffet's office adjusts tariffs, whichever comes first. Agreed. Payment in silver, half on delivery, half on successful resale. No, you don't raise your voice, don't lean forward. Just state the fact and wait. Full payment on delivery. I carry the resale risk, you carry the transport risk. This is the balance. He considers this. His finger taps the wax tablet twice, not nervously, just marking time while he thinks. Transport risk is significant, he says. So is resale risk when tariffs shift monthly. Fair. He scratches a line through the tablet, rewrites it. Full payment on delivery. Tin contracts run 6 months. Renewal terms negotiated 30 days before expiration. Accepted. The covered market's marble columns are impressive. The columns support commerce. The columns also support your family's trading license. You have learned to negotiate in their shadow. He pulls a small cloth pouch from his belt, opens it. Silver coins spill onto the table. Carthaginian mint, full weight, no clipping. He counts out 20 pieces, slides them toward you. Deposit, he says. First shipment arrives in 12 days. Confirm the warehouse location by messenger before then. You sweep the coins into your palm. The weight is correct. The mint stamps are clear. The silver is real, which in Mediterranean commerce is never guaranteed until you've held it in your hand and checked. Southern warehouse, you say. 3rd level. The harbor master knows the location. Good. He stands, rolls the wax tablet and tucks it back into his belt. Your reputation is accurate. This simplifies things. What reputation? That you pay attention while everyone else does not. He almost smiles. Almost. In commerce this is a superpower. The bar is low. He leaves without further ceremony. Walks back through the covered market toward the docks, his footsteps echoing off the marble columns in a rhythm that fades slowly as he moves into the sunlight outside. You sit for a moment longer. The silver coins are warm in your hand. 20 pieces of a contract that will run for 6 months and generate profit margins your grandfather would have called excessive and your father would have called prudent. The tin shipments will arrive monthly. The harbor master's tariff schedule will adjust. The Suffet's office will notice your trading volume eventually, and when they do, someone in a veiled robe will appear in this market and ask questions you'll need to answer carefully. But that's months away. Right now you have a contract, you have silver, you have a harbor master who gives you 2 hours of warning when tariffs shift. You have a Greek scribe who knows every Mediterranean route by heart. You have a family trading license that has held steady for 7 years in a city where licenses are revoked for reasons nobody explains in advance. The afternoon light angles through the market's colonnade. Shadows stripe the stone floor in parallel lines. A spice merchant 2 columns over is closing his stall for the day, folding silk coverings over ceramic jars of saffron and cumin. The scent drifts across the market, sharp, earthy, expensive. The marble columns cast long shadows across the stone floor. Outside, the afternoon light is turning gold. The workers will be finishing the tin shipment transfer soon. The manifests need to be updated. Lysander will be waiting at the marble ledger table with his perfect handwriting and his tragic memory, and his absolute competence. You stand. Pocket the silver. Walk back through the covered market toward the docks, where the purple-sailed ships are still unloading, and the harbor master's bronze tally sticks are still clicking, and the commerce of Carthage continues in its measured, profitable, unceasing rhythm. The day is not finished, neither are you. The shipyard is north of the main commercial docks, separated by a limestone ridge that runs parallel to the harbor. You walk there mid-morning, when the air has warmed enough that the metal workers have stripped to the waist, and the bronze fittings glow dull orange in the sunlight. The hammering is rhythmic, industrial, and unceasing. 30 men working in synchronized shifts, the sound carrying across the water like a pulse. You are here because the pattern exists, and you need to confirm it with your own eyes before you act on it. The shipyard foreman is a Phoenician named Hanno, broad-shouldered and deliberate, who smells like sweat and hot metal. He nods when you approach. You have paid him for information before. He knows why you are here. Bronze production peaks this month, he says in Punic, not as a greeting, just as fact. You observe the rhythm of the hammers, coordinated with tin arrivals. He glances at you, weighing whether this is insight or luck. You notice patterns. Patterns determine profit, you say. He returns to the work without comment. The respect between you is transactional. He does not care what you do with the information. You do not care what he thinks of your conclusions. The exchange is complete. You walk the length of the shipyard. Military vessels and commercial ships are under construction simultaneously. Quinqueremes with reinforced hulls beside grain transports, the distinction clear in the beam width, and the bronze fittings being hammered into place. The military vessels are receiving triple the bronze reinforcement of the commercial hulls. This is not coincidence. This is planning. The tin arrived from Iberia 3 weeks ago. The bronze production peaked exactly when the shipyard needed it. Someone coordinated this months in advance. Someone with authority to plan fleet expansion without announcing it publicly. You count the vessels under construction. 11 military hulls, 4 commercial transports. The ratio tells you everything. A dock worker passes carrying bronze fittings in a woven basket. The metal clinks with each step. You note the quantity. Enough for 3 full quinqueremes. The next shipment of tin is scheduled to arrive in 2 weeks. If the pattern holds, the shipyard will be ready to consume it immediately. This is the 3rd century Phoenician equivalent of reading an expense report and realizing the company is about to launch a hostile takeover. Nobody has announced the expansion, nobody has filed the paperwork. But the bronze does not lie. The quinqueremes do not build themselves. And the tin timing is too perfect to be anything other than someone at the Suffolk level planning a naval campaign 6 months before it becomes public knowledge. You make a mental note to double your tin warehouse capacity before the week ends. The sun is higher now. The metal workers, hammers strike in overlapping waves, each blow a fraction of a second after the last. The heat rising from the forges turns the air above them into something visible, shimmering and unstable. You taste copper on your tongue. The shipyard air is thick with it, bronze dust and sweat, and the particular smell of oak planking being sealed with pitch. A gull lands on the nearest quinquereme's unfinished prow, grey-white against the raw wood. It watches the workers with the practiced indifference of a creature that has learned humans drop food. No one pays it attention. The hammering continues. You walk back toward the commercial district. The limestone ridge blocks the view of the main harbor, but you can hear the activity. The dock workers shouting in Punic and Libyan, the creak of cargo cranes, the distant trumpet of an elephant being moved through the military quarter. Carthage operates at 3 levels simultaneously: the commercial surface, the military preparation, and the political calculation that connects them. You have just confirmed that all 3 are synchronized. The pattern is no longer speculation, it is fact. Your warehouse is in the lower commercial district, built into the hillside where the stone stays cool even in summer. You arrive to find your assistant, a young Numidian named Azru, quick with numbers and careful with trust, reviewing the inventory logs by late morning light. You do not waste time with preamble. Double our tin warehouse capacity. He looks up from the wax tablet. Anticipating demand? The shipyard pattern indicates fleet expansion. You say. He sets the tablet down. His expression shifts, not skepticism but calculation. 3 weeks ahead, exactly when bronze fittings will be needed. He nods once. The decision is made. He will arrange the warehouse expansion. You will absorb the storage cost. If the pattern holds, the bronze workers will pay premium rates for immediate tin access when the military contracts accelerate. If the pattern breaks, you will carry dead inventory through the summer and lose the capital you just committed. You have discovered the pattern in Iberian tin shipments. Tin arrives precisely when bronze production peaks. This suggests coordinated military planning months in advance. You are adjusting warehouse inventory. The Suffet's daughter will notice your timing. Azru is already calculating the logistics. We will need authorization from the harbor master to expand storage capacity. The dock tariffs will increase. You finish. They always increase. Factor the cost into the margin. He makes a notation on the wax tablet. His handwriting is smaller than yours, more precise. You hired him because he counts faster than you do, and because he does not ask questions that do not serve the business. These qualities are worth more than loyalty, in a city where commercial advantage lasts exactly as long as you can defend it. The warehouse is divided into sections by commodity: grain in the western corner where the air stays driest, olive oil in sealed amphoshole near the entrance for quick loading, tin ingots stacked in the eastern section where the stone walls provide the most protection from theft. You walk through the space, counting the existing tin inventory. 43 ingots. Iberian source, high purity, arrived 6 weeks ago on a contracted ship that also carried silver and salted fish. At current shipyard consumption rates, this inventory would last 2 months under normal conditions. Under military expansion conditions, it will last 3 weeks. You are betting that the Suffites will announce fleet contracts before your tin runs out, and that the bronze workers will panic when they realize the open market supply has already been purchased by someone who saw the pattern first. That someone is you. Azru is watching you count. The risk is considerable. The risk of not acting is worse, you say. If the pattern holds and we miss it, we lose 6 months of advantage. If the pattern breaks, we lose storage cost. The math is clear. He does not argue. You pay him to execute decisions, not debate them. He returns to the wax tablet, calculating the cost of expanded storage, the expected delivery timeline for the next Iberian shipment, the tariff increase that will inevitably accompany it. The stone wall behind the tin section is cool against your palm when you rest your hand there. The temperature difference between the sun-heated street and this interior shadow is enough that you feel it in your shoulders, the small release that comes from standing in shade after walking through brightness. You leave him to the numbers. The tin is decided. The warehouse will expand. The next 2 weeks will determine whether you read the pattern correctly, or whether you just committed working capital to a miscalculation that will haunt your profit margins until autumn. The covered market is your next destination. If the Suffites daughter has been observing your commercial timing, and the whispers suggest she has, then the marketplace is where the political attention will surface. You prefer to know when you are being watched. Surprises in Carthage are rarely pleasant. The covered market is built into the hillside where the commercial district meets the residential quarter. The roof is supported by cedar columns, the space beneath divided into stalls where merchants sell everything from Sicilian grain to Egyptian linen. The air is cooler here, shaded, thick with the smell of spices and the low murmur of negotiation in 5 languages. You arrive to find the marketplace quieter than usual. Not empty. The merchants are still present, the stalls still stocked, but the rhythm is different, slower, more careful. Then you see why. The Suffites daughter is standing near the spice merchant's stall, veiled, flanked by 2 attendants who do not speak. Her presence is not announced. It does not need to be. Every merchant in the covered market knows who she is, and every merchant is adjusting their negotiation strategy accordingly. You continue toward the marble column trader. Your business here is legitimate. You have a contract to finalize, olive oil in exchange for polished stone, the terms already negotiated last week. The Suffites daughter's presence does not change the transaction, it only changes how carefully you conduct it. A merchant, a Libyan who sells ceramic amphorae, older than you, careful with words, leans close as you pass. He whispers in Punic. The Suffites daughter observes. My negotiations remain honest, you say quietly. He nods, but his expression suggests this is not the concern. Her family controls routes. I am aware, you say, my timing serves their interests. The Suffites daughter appears in the marketplace. This is political theater. Her veiled presence signals alliances yet to come. You negotiate more carefully when she observes. The power dynamics are exhausting. The marble column trader is waiting at his stall, a Greek named Philippos, who survived the siege of Syracuse, and now sells polished stone in a city that builds faster than any other in the Mediterranean. The terms are already settled. 3 amphorae of premium olive oil, in exchange for 2 columns of Numidian marble, dimensions specified, delivery within the month. You finalize the contract with minimal conversation. Philippos accepts the terms. You press your seal into the wax tablet. The contract wax is still soft from the morning heat. It holds the impression cleanly. Your grandfather's merchant mark. The one you inherited, along with the contacts and the debts and the operational knowledge of which harbor clerks can be trusted, and which require witness documentation for every transaction. The transaction is complete. The Suffet's daughter has not moved. She is still standing near the spice merchant's stall, observing, not shopping, never shopping. Her attendants remain silent. The marketplace remains careful. A pigeon settles on the cedar beam above the spice stall, sending a small shower of dust motes into the shaft of light that cuts through the market's shade. The Suffet's daughter's veil shifts slightly, acknowledging the movement, perhaps, or simply adjusting in the small breeze that moves through the covered space. You leave through the eastern exit, the one that leads back toward the harbor. The sunlight is harsh after the shade of the covered market. You taste salt on the air. The wind has shifted, carrying the smell of the sea inland. The temperature outside is higher than you expected. Your tunic collar is damp by the time you reach the limestone steps. Your tin warehouse capacity will double by week's end. The Suffet's daughter knows your timing. The bronze workers will need supply in 3 weeks. The pattern is confirmed. You walk back toward the docks, where the ledger is waiting and the afternoon shipments will need inspection. The harbor master's bronze tally sticks will click. The tariffs will be calculated. The city will extract its percentage. And you will count what remains, same as every day, same as your grandfather did before the tariffs were half what they are now. The work continues. The margin narrows. The pattern holds. The path to the upper city passes the Temple of Tanit on the northern terrace, where the sacred precinct overlooks the harbor and the sea beyond. You take this route because it's faster. The incense smoke is already visible from 3 streets away. A column rising steady into the morning light, cedar and myrrh, mixing with something sharper you've never been able to identify. The priests burn offerings at dawn, and again at sunset. Between those hours the braziers smolder without pause. The temple steps are limestone, worn smooth by generations of merchants, sailors, and officials ascending to make their offerings. You're not here to pray. You're passing through, but the priest at the entrance recognizes you. He recognizes everyone who trades regularly in the harbor district. And he steps forward with the kind of deliberate movement that means you're about to have a conversation, whether you planned for one or not. Tanit blesses commerce, he says in Punic. His voice is flat, ceremonial. He said this 10,000 times. The empire prospers, you reply. The formula is old. You learned it from your grandfather. The priest nods once. Your offerings are noted. You've made 3 offerings this year. 1 after the Sicilian shipment cleared inspection, 1 after the cedar deal closed, and 1 2 weeks ago when the harbor master's tariff adjustment somehow didn't include your warehouse. Coincidence, probably. You paid anyway. Prosperity demands gratitude, you say. The priest steps back. The conversation is over. You continue up the steps. The temple smoke follows you for another 2 streets, the scent clinging to your clothes and your hair. By the time you reach the administrative quarter, you smell like someone who has just come from prayer. This is not a disadvantage. Half the merchants in Carthage time their routes to pass the temple precisely for this reason. The scent is a signal, a mark of piety that costs nothing and suggests everything. The city believes in Tanit the way it believes in the harbor. Both are foundations, both are eternal, both demand payment in different forms. You pass the braziers, you make the offerings, you speak the old words. The ships keep arriving, the ledgers keep balancing, the system holds. The smoke rises behind you as you walk, a constant presence against the morning sky. 17 years of watching that column, and it has never once stopped burning. Drought, storm, siege preparation. The smoke continues. It is the one certainty in a city built on calculated risk and shifting tariffs. You don't pray often, but you respect the continuity. The temple has outlasted empires. It will outlast yours. The priests know this. So do you. The administrative quarter is ahead, the Suffet's complex visible on the highest terrace. You're not going there. Not yet. But the sight of it reminds you that Carthage runs on 2 systems. the one recorded in ledgers, and the one negotiated in temple smoke and political shadows. You've learned to navigate both. The incense fades as you descend toward the lower market. The smell is replaced by baking bread, and the salt iron scent of fish being unloaded at the smaller docks. The sacred gives way to the commercial without ceremony. This is how the city functions. You move between worlds, and the transition is marked only by a change in the air. The temple remains behind you, smoke rising, prayers chanted in rhythms older than Rome. The warmth of the morning sun finds the back of your neck as you pass the fountain where the water sellers fill their amphoras. The stone beneath your sandals is still cool from the night. Limestone holds cold longer than marble, and the upper city's terraces stay shaded until nearly midday. Your tunic moves slightly in the breeze coming off the sea, carrying the last traces of temple incense mixed now with the sharper smell of fresh-cut lumber from the shipyard district. You can feel the exact moment when the sacred precinct's influence ends and the commercial city begins. It's a shift in temperature, in sound, in the quality of attention people pay to each other. The voices change from prayer rhythm to negotiation rhythm. The air tastes different. The bronze merchant's stall is in the eastern section of the covered market, where the metalworkers cluster near the fountain to keep their hands cool between casting runs. He sees you coming. He's already pulling the inventory scroll before you reach the counter. Your fittings, he says in Punic, moving faster than expected. You nod. You expected this. 3 weeks ago you noticed the shipyard was ordering bronze in quantities that didn't match the current fleet maintenance schedule. Small increase. Easy to miss, but consistent across 4 consecutive weeks, which meant someone with authority was planning something they hadn't announced yet. You bought fittings. Not a dramatic amount. Enough to supply a mid-sized refit operation, but not enough to draw attention from the harbor master's tariff audits. The price was reasonable, the storage cost was negligible, the risk was calculated. The harbor master confirmed the fleet expansion 2 days ago. 17 new warships, construction beginning immediately. The bronze fittings are selling at premium rates. This is because you recognized the pattern 3 weeks early. The harbor master confirmed the fleet launch. Your timing was perfect. The merchant is watching you with the expression of someone trying to determine whether you're very smart or very lucky. You don't clarify, let him wonder. A naval contractor enters the stall, Carthaginian, mid-40s, the ink-stained fingers of someone who works with requisition lists more than he works with ships. He glances at the bronze fittings display, then at you. Your bronze fittings arrive perfectly timed, he says. No introduction. The city is small enough that everyone knows who supplies what. Coordination serves both interests, you reply. He picks up one of the fittings, examines the weight and the casting quality. Carthaginian bronzework is flawless. Another advantage the city holds over its competitors. The Romans are still figuring out how to cast without air bubbles. Premium rates justified, the contractor says. He sets the fitting down. Quality and timing command value. Precisely, you say. The transaction takes less than 10 minutes. He orders half your remaining inventory. Payment in silver, immediate delivery to the shipyard's northern warehouse. The merchant records the sale with visible satisfaction. His commission on this single exchange will cover his stall fees for the next 2 months. You leave the market with a coin purse heavier than it was at dawn, and the quiet certainty that you've just expanded your reputation among the naval contractors. Fleet expansions happen every few years. The next one, they'll remember who anticipated the pattern, and who scrambled to catch up after the announcement. The covered market is busier now. Mid-morning, the rush between the first and second harbor unloadings. Voices overlap in 6 languages, haggling over weights and qualities and delivery terms. Somewhere near the spice stalls, a debt negotiation is getting heated. You don't turn to look. Not your concern. The fountain at the market center is still running, the water clean and cold from the aqueduct that feeds the upper city. You stop long enough to rinse your hands. The bronze merchant stall leaves a metallic residue that clings to the skin, and then you continue toward the warehouse district. The tin contracts are next. The Iberian captain is due at the docks this afternoon, and if the bronze fittings taught you anything, it's that recognizing the next pattern before it announces itself is worth more than any single cargo shipment. The weight of the silver in your belt pouch shifts with each step, a physical reminder that the morning's calculation held. The coins are still warm from the contractor's hands, freshly counted, recently handled. They clink softly against each other, a rhythm that matches your pace through the marketplace crowds. You can smell the oil from the lamp seller's stall 2 rows over, thick and slightly rancid in the heat. The covered market traps heat differently than open air. It builds slowly, accumulates in the spaces between the canvas roof and the stone floor, until by afternoon the whole structure becomes a furnace that drives customers toward the fountain every few transactions. You walk faster, the ledger is balanced, the day is far from over. The Suffolk's administrative complex is on the highest terrace of the upper city, built into the limestone ridge that overlooks the harbor and the sea beyond. You're not here by summons. You're here because the Suffolk's representative sent word 3 days ago that your presence would be noted favorably. In Carthage, this is not a request. The complex is guarded but not fortified. Wealth and power here are expressed through marble columns and bronze doors, not through walls. The guards recognize you. One nods toward the interior courtyard. You enter without announcement. The representative is waiting in the shaded colonnade that runs along the eastern edge of the courtyard. He's a younger man, maybe 30, with the careful posture of someone who speaks on behalf of power he does not personally hold. His family serves the Suffolk's household. He is competent, precise, and entirely aware that his authority derives from proximity rather than position. You've met him twice before. Once at a harbor inspection, once at a grain negotiation where his presence signaled that the Suffolk's family had a quiet interest in the outcome. Both times the conversation was brief and transactional. Today feels different. He gestures toward the marble bench beneath the colonnade. You sit. He remains standing. Not out of hostility, but because standing allows him to control the geometry of the conversation. Your commercial timing impresses, he says in Punic. Pattern recognition serves empire, you reply. The formula is neutral. You're not claiming genius. You're claiming diligence. He nods. The Suffolk's family notes competence. This is the sentence you've been waiting for. Not approval, not partnership. Acknowledgement. In Carthage, acknowledgement from the Suffolk's household is the first step in a sequence that can lead to expanded trade licenses, access to restricted shipping routes, or marriage alliances that bind families across generations. It can also lead to obligations you don't currently understand and cannot refuse once accepted. My family serves Carthage faithfully, you say. The truth of this statement is irrelevant. What matters is that you've said it clearly, and without hesitation. The representative's expression shifts slightly, not a smile, but a recognition that you understand the structure of the conversation. He sits now, the shift in posture, marking a transition from formality to negotiation. The Suffolk's daughter has been seen in the marketplace, he says. Her presence signals interest. You've known this since her first appearance 2 weeks ago. The Suffolk's daughter does not shop, she observes. Every time she appears, something shifts. A trade route changes hands. A marriage alliance is announced. A family that was rising suddenly finds itself under quiet scrutiny. Her family's influence shapes roots, you say. Neutral, observational, you're not flattering, you're stating fact. This is recognized, the representative says. He leans forward slightly. Your bronze timing was noticed. Your family's ledger discipline is known. The Suffet's household values both. You wait. He hasn't stated the offer yet. In Carthaginian political negotiation, the first person to name terms loses the advantage. There will be opportunities, he says finally. Routes opening, contracts under review. The Suffet's family remembers, who demonstrates competence before seeking favor. There it is, not a specific offer, a category of offers. He's telling you that you're being watched, not with suspicion, but with interest. The next move is yours. Pursue the connection, or maintain distance, and accept slower commercial growth without political entanglement. Gratitude is noted, you say. My family remains ready to serve Carthage's prosperity. The representative nods. The conversation is over. You've accepted acknowledgement without committing to obligation. The door remains open, so does your independence. He stands. You stand. No handshake. Carthaginian formality does not require physical contact. He gestures toward the courtyard exit. You leave without looking back. The descent from the upper city takes longer than the climb. Your legs feel heavier, though the physical effort is less. The weight is not in the body. It's in the recognition that you've just stepped onto a path your grandfather walked carefully for 40 years. And that every decision from here forward carries political consequence alongside commercial risk. The harbor is visible below, the purple sails moving in their endless rhythm, the bronze fittings sold at premium. The Suffet's family has noticed. The Greek scribe's routes continue to guide your planning. You're succeeding. The cost of that success is becoming clearer. The marketplace sounds rise as you descend. The hammering. The negotiations, the merchants calling prices in 4 languages. The city continues. So do you. The sun sets over Birsa Hill's whitewashed villas. This is beautiful. This is also your signal to finalize contracts. The golden light makes everyone more agreeable. You have learned to time negotiations with sunset. The Iberian captain stands at the western edge of the counting house terrace, where the limestone catches the last of the day's warmth. His shadow stretches long across the flagstones. He's watching the light the way someone watches an hourglass, measuring time in color rather than sand. You've positioned the contract papyrus on the marble table where the sunset strikes it directly. The wax seal sits beside it, softened by the day's heat but not yet liquid. The timing matters. Too early, and the captain feels rushed. Too late, and the moment passes. The magic hour dissolves into ordinary dusk, and negotiations drag into tomorrow. The sunset view aids agreement, the captain says in Punic. His accent carries the coastal rhythm of Iberia, harder consonants, vowels that finish clean. Beauty facilitates commerce, you say. He picks up the contract, reads it without hurry. The text is standard. Quantity, quality, delivery schedules, penalty clauses for delays or substitutions. You've negotiated this route 3 times before with different captains. The Iberian tin trade runs on repetition. The comfort is in the sameness. The light shifts from gold to amber. The villas on Birsa Hill catch fire in sequence as the sun drops toward the horizon. The purple dye workshops release their evening smoke. Thin columns rising into windless air. Somewhere in the lower city, temple drummers begin the sunset chant. The sound carries upward, rhythmic and familiar. Your tin contract terms accepted, the captain says. He sets the papyrus down. Mutual prosperity achieved. You press the wax seal while the light holds. The captain's mark goes beside yours. A ship in profile, the bow pointed east toward Carthage. The contract is complete. The week's negotiations are finished. 3 days of careful approach. 2 days of price discussions. 1 final evening watching the sun set over a city that has made commerce into an art form. The captain extends his hand. You clasp forearms in the merchant's grip, wrist to wrist, the weight equally distributed. His calluses match yours in different places. His are from rope and tiller, yours are from stylus and counting stone. Next season, he says. Same terms if the markets hold. The markets will hold. He nods once and withdraws. His footsteps fade down the terrace stairs. You hear him speaking to his crew in the courtyard below. Rapid Iberian, the vowels blurring together into a rhythm you've learned to recognize without understanding. Orders being given. Preparations for departure. The ship will sail with the morning tide, tin secured for the return voyage, profit margins calculated and confirmed. You remain on the terrace as the light fades from amber to rose. The contract sits on the marble table, the wax seal still warm. 17 years of standing on this terrace, watching this exact sunset, timing negotiations to coincide with the moment when the sky turns the color of old gold, and everyone's resistance softens just enough to close the deal. The harbor below is quieting, the last ships are secured, the dock workers are finishing their shifts, the counting houses are closing their shutters. The city's commercial day is ending the way it always ends, with ledgers balanced, contracts sealed, and the Mediterranean stretching dark and calm toward horizons you've learned to measure in profit rather than distance. The temple chant reaches its crescendo and stops. The silence afterward feels earned. You gather the contract and the seal. The marble table is cool now under your palm. Tomorrow, the harbor master will record the transaction in his bronze-fitted ledger. Tomorrow the tariff calculations will begin again. Tomorrow the purple sails will arrive with new cargo and new negotiations. Tonight the sun has set, the contract is sealed, the week has ended successfully. The evening air settles around you like a familiar cloak. You can smell the cooling limestone, the salt from the harbor, the faint char of cooking fires beginning in the lower city. Your feet know the path back through the counting house, past the shelves of old contracts, past the bronze scales that measure everything by weight and worth, past the threshold where commerce ends and evening begins. The terrace empties slowly. The light drains from the sky in stages, rose to violet to the deep blue that precedes full dark. The whitewashed villas on Birsa Hill lose their fire one by one, becoming pale shapes against the hillside, then shadows, then memory. You roll the contract with care, the papyrus crackling softly under your fingers. The red cord waits in the drawer, where you keep all the instruments of closure. You tie it with the merchant's knot, the one that holds but releases when pulled correctly, the one your grandfather taught you before you understood why some things need to be both secure and accessible. The captain's ship will be loading now, tin ingots stacked in the hold, provisions secured. The crew making ready for a dawn departure that will take them west across water you've never sailed but profited from for 17 years. The city's rhythm shifts around you. The commercial day folds into evening. Voices change their timbre. Less negotiation, more greeting. The marketplace sounds fade. The temple quarter grows louder as the priests prepare for night observations. Carthage rearranges itself for darkness, the way a merchant rearranges his counting stones for a new calculation. You stand in the space between day and night, between transaction and rest, holding a rolled contract that represents everything you've learned about timing and light, and the precise moment when resistance becomes agreement. The first stars appear, not many, just the brightest ones, claiming their positions before the rest arrive. You've never learned their names, you've never needed to. Your navigation is horizontal, across markets and harbors, and the predictable patterns of supply and demand. The contract goes into the wooden case with the others. The lid closes with a soft sound that means completion. The counting house is cooler now. The sunset warmth has faded from the limestone walls. You spread the Iberian contract flat on the marble table where the wax seal catches the oil lamp's glow. Dark red, pressed clean, the ship's bow pointing east, like a promise kept. The week's other contracts sit in their wooden case. The Sicilian grain shipment from Chapter 2, the cedar wood margins from the Lebanese timber negotiation. The bronze fitting sails that confirmed the tin bronze pattern you spotted 3 weeks before anyone else noticed the market shift. Each papyrus represents a different conversation, a different dance of numbers and trust and timing. You run your finger along the Iberian contract's edge. The papyrus is new. Egyptian manufacture. The fibers tight and even. The scribe who prepared it works in the administrative quarter near the Suffet's complex. His hand is precise. His fee is reasonable. You've used him for 6 years. The oil lamp flickers. The flame steadies. Outside, the city is settling into its evening rhythm. Voices from the lower streets. The distant sound of a door closing. The ever-present whisper of the Mediterranean against the harbor stones. The contract serves both parties. You don't say this aloud. The counting house is empty, except for the ledgers, and the lamp, and the accumulated weight of 17 years of negotiations, that all led to moments exactly like this one. You roll the contract carefully, tie it with the red cord reserved for completed negotiations, place it in the wooden case with the others. The case is cedar, Lebanese, like the timber you negotiated in Chapter 6. The scent is faint now after years of use, but still present when you lift the lid. The Greek scribe's handwriting is visible on the Sicilian grain contract beneath the Iberian tin agreement, Lysander's perfect script. His flawless memory of routes he sailed as a free captain, before Carthage acquired him as a war asset. His knowledge is in every calculation you've made this week. His tragedy is in every profit margin. You don't dwell on it. The thought arrives and departs like the temple smoke you watched from the terrace at sunset. The ledger needs final entries before the day can close. You pull the papyrus toward you. The reed pen is where you left it this morning, beside the inkwell, the tip dried and stiff. You dip it in water first, then ink. The familiar sequence of preparation. The small ritual that precedes all record-keeping. The entries write themselves. Cargo type, quantity, value negotiated, tariff calculated, net margin after the harbour master's bronze tally stick clicking, and the Suffet's family taking their invisible percentage of everything that moves through Carthage's docks. The numbers are good, not exceptional, not the kind of profit that draws attention from people whose attention you'd prefer to avoid, just solid, reliable. The kind of week that repeats itself season after season, building slowly towards something larger than any single transaction. Your hand moves across the papyrus with the steady rhythm of long practice. The lamp burns. The ink dries. The counting house holds its silence like a trusted companion. The stone floor beneath your feet has released the day's heat. You can feel the coolness rising through your sandals. The walls no longer radiate warmth. The counting house is settling into its night temperature, the point where limestone and evening air reach equilibrium. You pause between entries, flex your fingers. The reed pen has worn a familiar groove into your right hand, just below the knuckle of your middle finger, where 17 years of record-keeping has reshaped the skin into a permanent indentation. You've never measured it, you've never needed to, some evidence requires no documentation. The lamplight throws your shadow against the wall. It stretches and bends across the stones, across the shelves of old contracts, across the doorway that leads to the courtyard where the Iberian captain stood this morning discussing tin prices in the language of mutual advantage. Outside, the city sleeps in layers. The lower streets first, where the dock workers and market vendors collapse into exhausted rest. Then the merchant quarter, where men like you finish their ledgers before allowing themselves the luxury of horizontal stillness. Last, the upper terraces, where the Suffet's family and their political allies conduct the kind of commerce that never appears in any ledger, but shapes every contract nonetheless. You complete the final entry, set the pen aside. The papyrus ledger is a map of the week. Every negotiation, every calculation, every small decision that accumulated into success. The wooden case sits closed. The contracts are sealed and recorded. The lamp can be extinguished now. You stand slowly. The day's weight settles into your lower back. 17 years of standing at marble tables, negotiating in golden light, timing every conversation to coincide with the moment when resistance softens and agreements become possible. The air in the counting house has grown still. No breeze enters through the high window. No sound penetrates from the streets beyond. The room exists in its own pocket of quiet, the kind of silence that only comes when the day's work is truly finished and the night has not yet made its demands. You pinch the lamp wick between wetted fingers. The flame dies. Darkness fills the counting house like water filling a vessel, completely, without hurry, finding every corner. Your eyes adjust slowly. The marble table becomes a pale rectangle, the wooden case a darker shape against it, the doorway a suggestion of lesser darkness leading to the courtyard beyond. The counting house door is heavy. You pull it closed behind you, and hear the iron latch fall into place with a sound like finality. The night air is cool against your face. The stars are out over the harbor. The purple sails are dark shapes against darker water. Tomorrow they will be bright again. Tomorrow the harbor master's tally sticks will click. Tomorrow the negotiations will begin fresh. Tonight the contracts are sealed, the week is finished, the ledger is complete. The papyrus ledger is blurring. This is because you have been recording transactions since dawn. Your reed pen is slowing. The numbers are finally complete. You sit back from the marble table. The counting house is dim now, the oil lamp burning low, the flame smaller than it was an hour ago. The wick needs trimming, but that can wait until morning. Everything can wait until morning. The ledger lies open before you, columns of figures in your own hand. The script is less precise now than it was at dawn, the letters slightly looser, the numbers leaning right where they stood straight 12 hours ago. Fatigue writes itself into ink. The morning entries are crisp, the evening entries are honest. Your eyes are dry. You blink and the room shifts slightly, then steadies. The stone walls. The wooden case with its sealed contracts. The empty wine cup from the negotiation with the Iberian captain. The scent of cooling wax and old papyrus. And the particular smell of a room where numbers have been counted until they stop meaning anything except themselves. You dip the pen one final time. Sign your mark at the ledger's bottom. The merchant's seal your grandfather designed. The one nobody else uses, because nobody else knows the shorthand system he invented for cargo manifests. Competitive advantage or liability, the harbor master still hasn't decided which. The ink dries while you watch, black on cream, permanent. Outside Carthage is fully dark now. The last voices from the lower streets have faded. The temple drums are silent. Even the ever-present Mediterranean seems quieter. Its rhythm slowed to something closer to breathing than waves. You close the ledger carefully. The papyrus is old. Older than your tenure in this counting house. Older than some of the contracts you've negotiated. The edges are worn soft. The binding is leather that's been oiled and re-oiled until it's supple as cloth. This ledger has recorded 17 years of commerce. It will record more. But not tonight. The wooden case is already secured. The lamp flame is guttering. The marble table is cool under your palm when you rest your weight against it to stand. Your legs are stiff. The day's standing has settled into your knees and ankles. You move slowly toward the door, one hand trailing along the wall for balance you don't quite need but appreciate anyway. The iron latch is cold. The door opens onto night air that tastes of salt and distance. The courtyard is empty. The flagstones hold the day's last warmth. You can feel it through your sandals. The ghost of sunlight, fading but still present. Above, the stars are sharp and clear. The same stars the Iberian captain will navigate by when he sails at dawn. The same stars Lysander once steered by when he was free to choose his heading. You don't look up long. The stars are beautiful and indifferent. They'll be there tomorrow. The counting house door closes behind you with a sound like completion. Your feet know the path to your quarters, down 3 terraces, past the fountain that runs even at night, through the narrow passage between the spice merchant's warehouse and the bronze fitter's shop. The route is automatic. Your body walks it while your mind floats somewhere between waking and the soft descent towards sleep that begins the moment you stop recording numbers. The ledger is balanced, the contracts are sealed, the harbour master's tariffs are calculated and recorded, the tin bronze pattern held. The Suffet's daughter appeared and departed without incident. The Greek scribe's memory served your prophet once again. Tomorrow begins fresh, new purple sails, new cargo, new negotiations. Tonight the papyrus is closed, the numbers are complete. The day releases its grip slowly, finger by finger, until you're walking through darkness that feels less like night, and more like the space between one breath and the next. Your door, your threshold, your small room with its narrow bed and shuttered window. You don't bother with a lamp. The darkness is enough, more than enough. The bed receives your weight without comment. The mattress is stuffed with wool that's compressed over years into exactly the shape your body requires. The night air entering through the shutters carries the smell of the sea. Not the harbour smell, oil and tar and worked rope, but the deeper scent beyond the breakwater. Salt and kelp, and the particular cold that rises from water that has never seen a hull or felt an anchor. Your breathing slows. The stone walls around you hold the day's conversations like an echo too faint to hear but present nonetheless. The Iberian captain's voice. The harbour master's calculations. The Suffet's daughter's brief observation about power and visibility. All of it settling into the fabric of the room, into the compressed wall beneath you, into the rhythm of your breath as it matches itself to the Mediterranean beyond your shuttered window. The last thought that crosses your mind before sleep arrives is numerical, not a transaction, not a calculation. Just the simple recognition that 17 years of counting has taught your body to release itself in stages. First the hands, then the shoulders, then the mind that holds the day's ledger, even after the papyrus is closed. Outside, the Mediterranean keeps its rhythm. Inside, your breathing slows to match it. The counting house is dim now. The oil lamp burning low. The flame smaller than it was an hour ago. The marble table holds the warmth of your forearms where you've been working. The contract is sealed, the tin is allocated, the numbers reconciled. The ledger lies open but still. You lean back against the stone wall. It's cool against your spine. The terrace window frames the Mediterranean. Dark now, the last light gone from the water. The purple sails have returned to their moorings. The harbour is quiet in the way it only gets after the commercial day concludes and before the night watch begins their rounds. This moment exists between the counting and the resting. The cedar scent lingers faintly in the air, not from the warehouse below, but from the door frame, where the wood has absorbed 17 years of salt and sun and commercial traffic. You notice it only when the wind stops, and the room holds its breath with you. Your shoulders drop an inch. Not dramatically, just the small adjustment of someone who has carried a ledger through a long day and can finally set it down. The wax tablets are stacked near the lamp. Tomorrow's manifest's already prepared. The harbour master's updated tariffs accounted for in the new margins. The Iberian captain's departure scheduled for the morning tide. Everything in its place. Everything recorded. Everything balanced. The Greek scribe finished his transcription work an hour ago. You heard him leave, the soft sound of his sandals on the stone steps, descending toward the lower city, where the rented rooms cluster near the market. He didn't speak. He rarely does after the sun sets, but the work was clean, the routes accurate, the distances confirmed. You close your eyes for a moment, not sleeping, just resting them. The Mediterranean is still out there. You don't need to see it to know its rhythm. The waves reach the harbor wall in the same intervals they've kept since you were young enough to think 17 years was an impossible span of time. Now it's just the length of a career. The distance between starting with your grandfather's shorthand and standing here with a signed contract that guarantees profit through the next sailing season. The lamp flame shifts slightly. A draft from somewhere. The window, probably. The terrace door is closed, but the shutters are open because you like to hear the water at night. You open your eyes. The darkness outside is total now. No moon yet. Just the stars and the faint glow from the lower city, where the taverns and the late merchant houses keep their lights burning. Carthage doesn't sleep entirely. It slows. It dims. It shifts from the rhythm of commerce to the rhythm of night watch and late negotiations, and the sort of business that prefers fewer witnesses. Your business is concluded. The contract sits on the table. The wax seal is dark red, pressed clean, the mark of the Iberian captain's ship. The bronze fittings, sold at a premium. The tin pattern held exactly as you calculated. The Suffet's daughter noticed, which means her family noticed, which means your name is now attached to the word competence in circles that matter. It's done. You breathe in slowly. The air is cool now. The stone walls release the day's heat gradually, but the process is well underway. By morning the counting house will be cold. You'll need the lamp lit early just to take the edge off. But that's tomorrow. Tonight, the warmth is still present. Not in the air. In the stone under your hand. In the wool of your tunic where the sun found you on the terrace earlier. In the quiet certainty that the numbers balanced and the margins held, and the city continues its trajectory towards something larger than any single merchant can fully see. You think about Lysander briefly, the Greek scribe, the man who holds shipping routes in his mind that he'll never sail again. He transcribed the Iberian contract without hesitation, his hand steady, his memory flawless, his captivity absolute. You don't dwell on it. The ledger is still open. You reach over and close it gently. The pages settle against each other with a soft sound. Papyrus on papyrus. Numbers recorded. Patterns confirmed. Another day archived in ink that will outlast memory. The lamp flame is smaller now. You let it burn. The wool of your tunic has softened where your arms rest against your sides. The weave is familiar under your fingertips. The same cloth you've worn for 3 seasons now, purchased from the Phoenician merchant near the temple district. It's held its shape well. The dye hasn't faded despite the salt air, and the long days spent moving between warehouse and counting house and terrace. Small constancies matter in a city where fortunes shift with the tide schedules. The stone floor is smooth under your feet. You've worn sandals all day, but they're off now, set beside the table, where you can find them in the morning without needing light. The coolness of the marble travels up through your soles, a pleasant contrast to the warmth still held in the walls. Outside, a nightbird calls once from the direction of the harbor. Not a gull. Those have settled for the evening. Something smaller. A sparrow, perhaps, or one of the cliff birds that nest in the warehouse district's upper ledges. The sound is brief and unrepeated. The counting house absorbs it without echo. Your breathing has slowed without your noticing. The rhythm of someone who no longer needs to be anywhere, do anything, prove anything. The day's calculations are complete. The night asks nothing of you except this: to remain still while the city's commercial heartbeat slows around you, and the water continues its patient work against the harbor stones. The window is open. The Mediterranean fills the space where sight ends and sound begins. Each wave reaches the harbor wall and releases. The interval is steady. You've counted it before, many times. 17 years of mornings and evenings spent near water that never stops moving. The rhythm is unconscious now. You don't count deliberately anymore. Your breathing adjusts on its own. In when the wave gathers, out when it breaks. The body learns what the mind practiced. The counting house is cooler now. The stone has released most of its warmth. You're still seated against the wall, the marble table to your left, the lamp burning its slow decline toward darkness. The ledger is closed, the contract sealed, the work complete. But you're not moving yet. The Mediterranean waves have been your constant rhythm, 17 years of counting their pattern. The waves synchronize breathing. The counting helped during the harbour master's most difficult tariff negotiations. The negotiation 3 months ago lasted until well past sunset. The harbour master's bronze tally sticks clicking faster as he recalculated the grain tariffs for the 3rd time. You sat across from him in his upper office, the one with windows facing the water, and let the wave rhythm hold you steady while he tried to find the weakness in your counter-proposal. He didn't find it. Between each of his calculations you counted 5 waves, breathe in, breathe out. The numbers in your head remained solid, while his tally sticks clicked and paused and clicked again. When he finally accepted your revision to the Sicilian route fees, his voice held something that might have been respect. The lamp flame wavers slightly. Another draft. The air moving through the terrace door, across the counting house, out the window toward the water. The city breathing with you. You think about the harbour master's bronze tally sticks, the way they click when he's calculating. The sound has its own rhythm, faster than the waves, more staccato, less forgiving. But underneath it, you've always kept the water in your mind. The steady pulse. The thing that doesn't change when tariffs do. It kept you calm. It kept you precise. When he raised the rate on Sicilian grain last spring, and you had to recalculate 3 shipments in under an hour, you counted waves between each line of figures. 5 waves per manifest. Breathe in. Breathe out. The numbers stabilized. The margins held. You paid the new tariff without argument, because you'd already absorbed it into the price structure, while he was still explaining the increase. He noticed. He didn't say anything, but the clicking paused for a moment, a half-second of silence that meant, "You're faster than I expected." The waves continue outside. You don't need to see them. The sound is enough. The rhythm is enough. The stars are visible now through the window. Not many. The city's lights obscure most of them. But a few survive the glare. The bright ones. The navigational ones. The markers sailors use when the coast is still a day away, and the water is the only road. Lysander knows those stars. He used to sail by them. Now he records their positions for other men's manifests. You've never asked him what that feels like. The question would be cruel. The answer wouldn't change anything. But tonight, in the quiet, you think about it. He transcribed the Iberian contract with perfect accuracy. The route from Tartessos to Carthage, marked with the prevailing winds and the seasonal variations and the coastal landmarks that matter when storms push you off course. He knows all of it. He's sailed all of it. And now he writes it down for you so you can sell bronze fittings to a city that will use them to build ships that will sail routes he'll never command again. The asymmetry is sharp. You breathe in. The wave gathers. You breathe out. The wave breaks. 17 years of this. 17 years of standing on docks at dawn, with a ledger that needed to balance by sunset. 17 years of watching purple sails arrive and depart and return. 17 years of harbour masters and tariff increases, and margin calculations, and the slow accumulation of competence that eventually becomes reputation. And underneath all of it, the water. The Mediterranean doesn't care about tariffs. It doesn't care about contracts or bronze fittings or the Suffet's daughter, or the rising tension between Carthage and Rome. It just moves. In and out. Gathering and breaking. The same rhythm it kept before Carthage existed, and the same rhythm it will keep after. You've built a career on counting things that change. But the water taught you how. The lamp flame is lower now, the oil nearly spent. You should refill it before it goes out entirely, but you don't move. The darkness isn't uncomfortable. The room is familiar enough that you don't need light to navigate it. And the window is enough. The stars, the water, the distant glow from the lower city. The counting house holds you gently, the stone cool but not cold, the air still but not stagnant, the work complete but not forgotten. Tomorrow the Iberian captain leaves with the morning tide, the bronze fittings loaded, the tin allocated, according to the pattern you discovered 3 weeks early, the profit margin secured, the suffix recognition earned. Tonight, you rest. The wave rhythm continues. You don't count it consciously anymore, but your body keeps time. In, out, gather, break. The oldest negotiation. The one that never required a contract. The scent of salt has strengthened as the evening has deepened. It comes through the open window with the sound of the waves, carrying with it the faint mineral smell of the harbor stones when they're wet. You've learned to read the salt concentration in the air. A higher tang means the wind is coming from the open sea rather than along the coast. Tonight it's balanced. The wind is calm, the water undisturbed except for its own patient motion. Your hands rest in your lap, palms up, fingers slightly curled. The position is natural, unforced. The same way your hands settle when you're reading a ledger that requires no corrections, when the numbers already balance and all that remains is acknowledgement. The stars through the window have brightened, as the city's lights have dimmed, more of them visible now. Not the full expanse you'd see from a ship 3 days out, but enough. Enough to remember that navigation is possible, that direction exists, that the water, for all its constancy, still leads somewhere. The memory surfaces without effort. 3 weeks ago. The warehouse. The tin shipment. The ledger open on the marble table under the lamp's steady glow. You weren't looking for a pattern. You were counting amphorae. 64 from Iberia. Standard manifest. Standard weight. But the timing was unusual, early by a week, and when you cross-referenced the arrival with the previous season's deliveries, the interval had shortened. Not by much, just enough. You pulled the older records, 2 seasons back, 3, 5. The pattern emerged slowly the way coastal fog lifts, not all at once but in layers. The tin shipments were accelerating, not in volume, in frequency. Someone in Iberia was sending more loads per season, which meant they'd increased their mining output or their smelting capacity, or both. And nobody else had mentioned it. You calculated forward. If the pattern held, the next shipment would arrive 3 weeks earlier than expected, which meant the spring bronze market would peak before anyone anticipated, which meant you could secure fittings at winter prices and sell them into a supply gap that hadn't opened yet but would. You acted immediately. The bronze merchant's stall in the covered market. The negotiation. The purchase order. 70 bronze fittings at the winter rate. Delivery scheduled for the week you projected the tin would arrive. It did. The Iberian captain made port exactly when you calculated. The tin unloaded while the spring prices were still climbing. The bronze fittings sold at a premium, because you were the only merchant with stock ready when demand spiked. The Suffet's daughter noticed. You didn't see her directly, you never do. But the message came through the usual channels. A servant. A sealed note. A single line. The bronze fitting timing was precise. That was all. It didn't need to be more. In Carthage, competence is acknowledged quietly. The families who control trade routes and political appointments don't make public announcements. They make notes. They remember. And when the next opportunity arises, the next partnership, the next contract, The next tariff negotiation that requires someone who can count 3 weeks ahead of the market. Your name is already in the room. That's how the city works. You lie back now. The marble table is cool under your hand. The counting house is darker than it was an hour ago. The lamp has finally exhausted its oil. The flame died quietly, without announcement, just a slow fade into smoke, and then nothing. The window is still open. The stars still visible, the Mediterranean still moving in its steady rhythm. You close your eyes. The tin pattern is still there behind your eyelids. Not the numbers themselves, just the shape of it. The recognition that everything measurable has a rhythm if you watch long enough. The shipments, the tides, the markets, the waves. 17 years of counting has taught you this. The world is full of patterns. Most people see chaos. You see intervals. And intervals can be predicted, and predictions can be turned into profit. The Safete's daughter saw it too. That's what the note meant. Not congratulations, recognition. You demonstrated something rare. The ability to see 3 weeks ahead of the present moment, and position yourself accordingly. In a city built on maritime trade, where a single storm can destroy a season's profit, and a single miscalculation can collapse a merchant house, that ability is more valuable than gold. You don't celebrate. Celebration would be premature. The pattern held once, it might hold again, or it might shift. Or someone in Iberia might change their operations, and the entire calculation will require rebuilding from new data. That's fine. You've rebuilt calculations before. The stone wall is cool against your spine. The counting house is quiet in the way it only gets after midnight, when the city has exhaled its last noise and settled into the hours reserved for sleep and unwitnessed business. You think about Lysander again, briefly. The Greek scribe with perfect memory of routes he'll never sail again. He would have spotted the tin pattern too, if he'd been looking. But he wasn't looking. He was transcribing, recording manifests for merchants who pay him to remember so they don't have to. His captivity has made you competent. The thought is uncomfortable. Not enough to dwell on. But present. The asymmetry is real. He holds knowledge earned through freedom. You use that knowledge to build a career in a city that took his freedom away. There's no resolution to this. No correction, no way to balance the ledger. The numbers don't work that way. His loss, your gain, the mathematics are simple, the ethics are not. You breathe in slowly. The wave rhythm is still there outside the window. You don't count it anymore, you just listen. The pattern victory is secure. The tin allocated. The bronze fittings sold. The suffix recognition earned. 17 years of mornings on the docks have led to this. A sealed contract, a competent reputation, and a counting house quiet enough to finally rest in. The stars are dimming now, not disappearing, just fading as your eyes adjust to the darkness. The Mediterranean is still out there, the harbor still breathing. The city still holding its commercial certainty like a flame that never quite goes out. You let your breathing slow. The stone is cool, the air is still. The work is done. The wool of your tunic has settled against your ribs, the fabric soft from washing, the weight barely noticeable. Your feet are bare against the smooth floor. The marble has absorbed the day's warmth and released it slowly, so the coolness now is gentle rather than sharp. Somewhere in the lower city a dog barks once. The sound is distant, muffled by the stacked warehouses and the narrow streets and the night air that carries noise differently than the day does. The bark doesn't repeat. Whatever prompted it has passed. Your hands rest open at your sides, the fingers uncurled, the palms facing upward in the darkness where no one can see them. The position of someone who is no longer holding anything. No stylus. No manifest. No tally stick. Just the quiet weight of your own hands, which have done their work, and are now allowed to rest. The counting house holds you as it has held 17 years of calculations. The walls know your rhythms. The floor knows your footsteps. The table knows the pressure of your forearms when you lean over the ledger at dawn, when the numbers are fresh and the harbor is just beginning to wake. Tonight, the harbor is quiet. The ships are moored. The manifests are sealed. The patterns have been recognized and recorded and turned into profit that will show in next season's accounts. You don't need to think about next season yet. The air moves slowly through the open window, carrying the salt and the sound of water and the faint coolness that comes after midnight, when the stones have finished releasing their heat. The breeze touches your face so lightly you almost don't notice. Just a whisper of motion. Just the city breathing while you rest. The counting house is empty except for the two of you. The oil lamp burns steady on the marble table. Lysander is transcribing the week's manifest onto papyrus, his reed moving in the practiced rhythm of someone who has written 1,000 shipping records and will write 1,000 more. You watch his hand move across the page. The letters are perfect, the spacing exact. He remembers every route he transcribes without consulting the original documents. The Iberian captain's tin route, you say. Lysander doesn't look up. The one you negotiated yesterday. You knew the coastal markers before I mentioned them. I sailed that route. His reed pauses. 12 years ago, before the war. The lamp flame doesn't move. The silence holds the weight of what neither of you will say directly. Your memory made this possible, you say. Your ledger made it profitable. The Greek scribe's tragic knowledge has become your advantage. He remembers routes with perfect clarity. His captivity is your commercial success. The irony remains uncomfortable after 7 years of working together. The counting house smells of beeswax and old ink. The marble table is cool under your palms where you lean. He returns to the transcription. The reed scratches against papyrus. You've built a merchant operation on the foundation of what he lost. He knows this. You know this. The bronze fittings that sold at premium yesterday were sourced using coordinates he gave you from memory. Ports he visited as a free man on ships he'll never command again. The route to Massalia, you say, the one through the Balearic Straits. I know it. His voice is flat, professional. The harbour master asked about winter feasibility. Lysander sets down the reed, looks at you directly for the first time since you entered. Winter crossings through the Balearics require coastal hugging. The open water route is faster, but the wind shear will destroy rigging if you're caught between the islands during a squall. You lose 6 days to safety. You gain 6 days of not being dead. You make a note on your wax tablet. That knowledge, you say carefully, has value. It had more value when I could use it myself. The lamp burns. The papyrus scroll lies half-finished on the marble. Outside, the harbor is settling into evening. The last ship's secured. The workers moving toward the lower city. The Mediterranean darkening from blue to black. If I could change what happened. You can't. Lysander picks up the reed again. But you pay me fairly. You don't pretend the arrangement isn't what it is. That's more than most captives get. You nod. The acknowledgement sits between you like a contract neither of you signed but both of you honor. The Suffet's daughter, Lysander says, returning to the manuscript. She was at the bronze merchant's stall when you finalized the fitting sale. She was. Her family doesn't visit the covered market to admire metalwork. No. Lysander completes another line of script, perfect spacing, perfect letters. Then you should prepare for whatever they want next. In Carthage, when the powerful take interest, it's either opportunity or trap, usually both. The reed continues its movement across papyrus. The lamp flame stays steady. You've worked together long enough that warnings don't require elaboration. He knows the city's patterns from 7 years of recording its transactions. You know them from 17 years of surviving its commerce. The manifest is nearly complete. Tomorrow, the Iberian contract begins its first shipment cycle. The week that started with increased tariffs ends with expanded margins. Lysander's knowledge of the tin route made it possible. Your negotiation made it real. His captivity funds your success. The shadows on the counting house walls shift as the lamp flame wavers once, then steadies. The evening air carries the scent of fish and salt from the harbor below. The irony doesn't fade, it accumulates. "I'll see you at dawn," you say. The Sicilian ship arrives early, Lysander confirms. The harbor master already updated his tally sticks. Of course he did. You leave the counting house. The Mediterranean wind is cool now. The heat of the day fully released from the limestone streets. The city spreads below, in layers of lamplight and shadow. Somewhere in the shipyard, workers are finishing the day's construction. Somewhere in the upper city, the Suffet's daughter is attending to whatever political theater her family requires. You descend toward your warehouse. The cedar scent is faint now. The Sicilian cargo distributed. The space cleared for tomorrow's arrivals. The rhythm continues. The ledger balances. The profits accumulate on the foundation of knowledge that belonged to a man who will never sail freely again. The stars are visible now above the harbor. The first lamps are being lit in the lower city. A dog barks somewhere near the fish market. The discomfort doesn't resolve. It becomes part of the operational calculus. What commercial success looks like when it's built on someone else's loss. What Carthage looks like from the inside. What you've become after 17 years of counting. The warehouse door is already locked. You check it anyway. The city breathes around you, the eternal rhythm of a maritime empire at the height of its power, supremacy woven into every transaction, every ship, every route, transcribed by a captive Greek scribe with perfect memory and nowhere left to sail. Morning arrives through the gap between the warehouse shutters. Grey light. Cool air. The Mediterranean is audible before it's visible, the wave rhythm that marks every dawn on these docks. You rise. The counting house floor is limestone, cold underfoot. The ledger waits on the marble table, closed. The manifest from yesterday is complete. Today's work hasn't started yet. You dress in the dim light. The wool tunic is heavy enough for the morning chill. The leather belt holds the bronze ring, the merchant's mark that opens doors and warehouse gates across the lower city. Outside, the harbor is waking. Workers move in the grey light toward the docks. The first ships are already visible, purple sails catching the dawn wind as they approach from the western horizon. The harbor master's office is lit when you arrive. The bronze tally sticks are already out, arranged on the wooden counting board in the pattern that means he's been working since before dawn. The Sicilian shipment, he says without greeting. Cleared yesterday. You stand in the doorway. The office smells like beeswax and old wood. The amphora count matched the manifest. It did. He picks up one of the tally sticks. The bronze catches the lamplight. The Iberian contract begins today. It does. He sets the stick down. The click is precise, mathematical. I've updated the tin tariff schedule for bulk imports. The rate applies to contracted routes only. Yours qualifies. You wait. The harbor master doesn't announce tariff changes without reason. The new rate is lower, he says. You keep your expression neutral. Lower tariffs mean higher margins. Lower tariffs also mean the harbor master has decided you're profitable enough to encourage rather than extract from. The Suffet's Administrative Council reviewed commercial activity last month, he continues. Your operation was noted favorably. There it is. Recognition from the Suffet's Council. Which means the Suffet's daughter's presence at the bronze merchant's stall wasn't casual observation. It was confirmation of something already decided. I appreciate the adjustment. you say carefully. You've navigated 17 years of commerce without major losses. The harbor master's voice is flat, professional. That competence has value to Carthage. The tariff structure reflects that. He returns to the counting board. The tally sticks click as he rearranges them. The sound is familiar now. 7 years of hearing that rhythm, learning what each pattern means, understanding that the harbor master's authority is absolute but not arbitrary. The Iberian ship arrives mid-morning, he says. The tin cargo will be assessed at the new rate. Understood. You leave the office. The sun is higher now, the grey light shifting to gold as it clears the eastern hills. The docks are fully active. Workers unload the night's arrivals. The covered market will open within the hour. The morning air tastes of salt and tar. A gull cries above the nearest mast. The stones under your feet are still cool from the night. 7 years of working with the harbor master. 7 years of learning his patterns. The mathematical precision that determines whether your shipments are profitable or barely sustainable. The authority that can't be negotiated with but can be navigated if you're careful, accurate, and patient. The tariff reduction is recognition, it's also calculation. The harbor master doesn't lower rates from generosity. He lowers them when doing so serves Carthage's commercial interests. Your operation has reached the threshold where supporting it produces more revenue than extracting from it. The Iberian ship is visible now, purple sail. The captain you negotiated with yesterday is at the helm. The tin cargo is secured below deck. The route begins. You return to the warehouse. The cedar scent from the Sicilian shipment still lingers faintly. The morning work begins. The ledger opens. The reed and ink wait on the marble table. Outside, the harbor master's bronze tally sticks are clicking, counting, calculating, determining the mathematical reality that governs every transaction on these docks. The sound carries across the morning air, precise, relentless, absolute. You've learned to work within that authority. 17 years of understanding that resistance is pointless, but navigation is possible. The harbor master respects competence. He rewards consistency. The tariff reduction proves it. The warehouse wall is warm now where the sun touches it. The leather of your belt is soft from years of wear. The bronze ring catches the light when you move your hand to write. The Iberian ship is docking. The cargo assessment will happen soon. The new rate will apply. The warmth of recognition settles into the operational rhythm. The ledger continues. The count continues. The work continues. The covered market is busy when you arrive. Merchants arranging their stalls. Customers moving through the limestone corridors. The fountain in the eastern section runs steady, the sound echoing off the vaulted ceiling. The bronze merchant's stall is already open. He nods when he sees you. No greeting necessary. You've done business here long enough that acknowledgement is sufficient. The fittings from yesterday, he says. They moved faster than expected. Good. The buyer asked about future availability. You wait. The buyer's identity matters. The shipyard. The bronze merchant says. They're expanding the construction schedule. They want a standing order. A standing order from the Carthaginian shipyard. Which means consistent demand. Which means the tin-bronze pattern you identified has become a reliable supply chain. I can arrange that, you say. The bronze merchant writes the terms on a wax tablet. The numbers are fair, the timeline is feasible, you agree to the contract, the seal is pressed. The transaction is complete. Movement near the fountain. The Suffet's daughter is here again, veiled, accompanied by 2 attendants. She's not pretending to shop this time. She's standing at the edge of the metalworkers' section, watching. You don't approach. Protocol requires she initiate contact if contact is intended. She does. The Iberian tin contract, she says. Her voice is clear, despite the veil. It began this morning. It did. My father's council reviewed your commercial record last month. The harbour master mentioned that. She steps closer. The attendants remain at a respectful distance. The market continues around you. Merchants negotiating, customers examining goods. The fountain running its steady rhythm. Carthage's strength depends on competent merchants, she says. My father believes that competence should be recognized. The tariff adjustment is one form of recognition. You wait. There's more. The shipyard expansion requires reliable suppliers, she continues. The bronze contract you just signed will be extended. Your operation has been designated as a preferred vendor for naval construction materials. Preferred vendor status, which means priority access to shipyard contracts. Which means the Suffix family has decided you're valuable enough to support directly. I'm honored, you say carefully. You're useful. Her tone is matter-of-fact, not unkind but not warm. Carthage is entering a period of expansion. Rome is growing in Italy. Syracuse remains a threat in Sicily. The fleet must grow to match the strategic reality. That requires merchants who can supply materials reliably, without drama or failure. She gestures toward the bronze fittings. You identified a supply pattern before your competitors did. You negotiated a route efficiently. You delivered quality materials on schedule. That consistency has value. I understand. The Suffix Council will remember it. She steps back. The attendants move with her. The next shipyard contract will be available in 2 weeks. Your operation will receive advance notice. She doesn't wait for a response. She leaves through the eastern exit. The market continues its rhythm. The bronze merchant is watching you. That was the Suffix daughter, he says unnecessarily. It was. Congratulations, his voice is dry. You've been noticed by the people who determine whether Carthage rises or falls. You return to the warehouse. The morning is half gone. The Iberian ship is fully unloaded. The tin cargo passed through the harbour master's assessment at the reduced tariff rate. The margins are better than projected. The Suffix recognition sits in your awareness like a weight that could be either anchor or sail. Preferred vendor status means opportunity. It also means scrutiny. It means your operation is now visible to the families who shape Carthage's strategic direction. The warehouse door is heavy when you push it open. The air inside is cooler than the street. The scent of old cedar and new wool from yesterday's shipment mingles in the shadows. The ledger waits. The count continues. The work continues. But the work is no longer purely commercial, it's political. The Suffix daughter made that clear. You've spent 17 years building competence in the shadows of larger powers. The shadows just receded. The light is bright, the exposure is total. The Suffix Council is watching. The marble table is smooth under your palm where you rest your hand. The reed is exactly where you left it. The ink jar is still half full. The Mediterranean wind moves through the warehouse, cool, steady. The city breathes its eternal rhythm around you. The warmth of recognition blends with the weight of expectation. The pattern holds. The day continues. The purple sails are visible in the harbour. More ships arriving. More cargo. More contracts. The rhythm is the same. The meaning has shifted. You're part of the mechanism now. Part of what builds the fleet. Part of what will challenge Rome. The work continues. The warmth holds. The count goes on. The purple sails fill the harbour again at dawn. 17 years of watching them arrive. The same angle of sunlight catching the dyed fabric. The same way the wind lifts them as the oarsmen rest. Cedar smell rises from the warehouses. The scent doesn't change. Lebanese timber smells the same whether it arrives in spring or autumn. Whether the harvest was good, or whether half the trees failed. The scent carries across the docks in the still morning air before the day's heat burns it away. Spices in the covered market. Cinnamon from beyond the known routes. Pepper that costs more than silver by weight. The merchants arrange them in pyramids on marble tables. The pyramids never collapse. Carthaginian precision in every transaction. The rhythm of the commercial empire is visible from the upper terrace. Ships arriving, ships departing. Cargo counted, tariffs paid, margins calculated. The harbour master's bronze tally sticks clicking in their morning pattern. The system functions because every merchant knows the cost of failure. You've learnt the harbour's breathing, the way the morning arrivals cluster near the eastern docks where the water is deepest, the way the afternoon departures wait for the wind to shift, the way the sunset casts long shadows across empty berths that will fill again by dawn. The Greek scribe's perfect memory holds routes you'll never sail, islands mapped in his mind, currents charted through experience, wind patterns learned across seasons. All of it serving Carthaginian merchants now. All of it translated into manifest entries and shipping calculations. The Suffet's daughter appeared in the covered market 3 times this month, each appearance signaling something. Trade alliances forming. Marriage negotiations beginning. Political power flowing through commercial channels. Her family's influence, shaping which routes prosper and which ones quietly fail. 17 years of watching the purple sails. 17 years of balancing ledgers. 17 years of understanding that Carthaginian supremacy over the Mediterranean is not an accident. It is a system. It is bronze tally sticks and marble tables, and perfect memory and political marriages, and cedar timber arriving on schedule. The elephant's trumpet in the distance. The sacred precinct releases temple smoke into morning air. The shipyard hammers continue their rhythm. The city breathes through its harbor, through its merchants, through its calculations. You stand on the terrace as the sun climbs higher. The purple sails catch the light. The same light that has caught them for 17 years. The same certainty that tomorrow they will return. The ledger is complete. The contracts are sealed. The margins are acceptable. The harbour master's authority is satisfied. The system continues. Carthage is the center. Rome is a shadow on the horizon. The Mediterranean carries Phoenician ships to every port that matters. The supremacy is so absolute it feels eternal. The warmth of the morning sun spreads across the stone terrace. Your shoulders release tension you didn't know you were holding. The counting is done. The day's first calculations are complete. The purple sails move toward their berths. The oarsmen call their rhythm. The dockworkers wait with ropes. Everything in its place. Everything functioning as it should. You breathe with the harbor's rhythm, in as the sails approach, out as the cargo is secured. The breath synchronizes with 17 years of watching, 17 years of learning, 17 years of being part of something larger than a single merchant's ledger. The cedar scent rises again, the spices wait in their pyramids, the marble stays cool under your hands, the Mediterranean stretches beyond sight, the empire continues. The rhythm holds. The warmth increases, not uncomfortable, just present. The stone releasing heat accumulated overnight, the air still before the midday wind arrives. The moment between arrival and action, the moment of breathing, the moment of rest. A vendor calls from the lower market. The words are indistinct from this height. Just sound carried on morning air. The call repeats. Fades. The marketplace below beginning its day while you stand in stillness above it. The light shifts as the sun climbs, the purple fabric deepening to almost black where the sails fold, then catching fire where they billow. The same transformation every morning, the same certainty of pattern. Your breathing has deepened without effort, the chest expands, the air fills. The release comes slowly. The harbor's rhythm and your rhythm no longer separate. Just one movement. One cycle. One breath shared with stone and sea, and 17 years of mornings, exactly like this one. The Mediterranean is visible from every terrace in the upper city. The water moves in patterns learned across seasons. The waves arrive in sets of 7. Always 7. You counted them once in your first year, and the pattern never changed. The breathing synchronizes without effort, in as the wave builds, out as it breaks against the harbor wall. The rhythm is older than Carthage, older than Phoenicia, older than anyone's memory of how the first ships learned to sail. The empire's heartbeat is the same as the sea's: expansion and consolidation, risk and profit, the purple sails going out, the cargo coming back, the cycle repeating with the certainty of tides. Your chest rises and falls with the wave pattern. 7 waves, a pause. 7 waves. The pause is where the breath rests, where the day's calculations fade into background, where the urgency of margins and tariffs becomes distant. The harbor below shows the system functioning. Ships at their berths. Workers moving between warehouse and dock. The harbor master crossing the limestone plaza toward his office. The bronze tally sticks in his hand catching sunlight. But from this height, the detail softens. The individuals become movement. The movement becomes rhythm. The rhythm becomes breath. The stone terrace holds warmth from 17 years of sunlight, every morning the same, every evening the heat releasing slowly back into air. The cycle unbroken, the pattern eternal. You've stood here before, at dawn after closing a difficult contract, at sunset after a day when the margins refused to balance, at midday when the calculations became too dense and you needed distance to see them clearly. The Mediterranean never changes its rhythm. 7 waves. 7 waves. The breathing matches without thought. The body knows the pattern before the mind names it. The Greek scribe is somewhere below in the counting house, his memory holding roots that cross this water, his knowledge serving merchants who will sail where he cannot. The irony is present but not sharp anymore. Just fact, just another element of the system. The Sophites complex rises behind you on the highest terrace, the administrative heart of Carthage built into limestone, that has held this position for 300 years. The political power flowing downward through trade agreements and tariff structures and marriages that bind merchant families to the state. The elephants are silent now. The temple smoke has dissipated. The shipyard hammers continue, but the sound is distant, softened. The purple sails move in slow procession toward their berths. Everything in rhythm, everything synchronized. The wave pattern continues. 7 building, 7 breaking, the pause between. Your breath fills the pause without effort. The expansion, the release, the moment of stillness before the next cycle begins. The certainty is absolute. Carthage controls the Mediterranean. The trade routes belong to Phoenician ships. The purple dye that colors those sails comes from Tyrian workshops that have perfected the process across generations. The supremacy is built into the stone, into the harbor, into the rhythm of waves that arrive in sets of 7. The warmth spreads through your shoulders, down your spine, into your legs where they rest against the stone bench. The tension of morning calculations is gone. The urgency of tariff deadlines is distant. Only the rhythm remains. The Mediterranean stretches to every horizon. The water moves in its eternal pattern. The empire breathes with it. You breathe with it. The separation between observer and observed dissolves in the warmth and the rhythm and the certainty. 7 waves, 7 waves. The breathing continues. The stone releases heat. The purple sails settle into their berths. The cycle completes. The system holds. The weight of your body against stone. The way the bench has shaped itself to you across 17 years of sitting here. Or you have shaped yourself to it. The distinction no longer matters. Just the contact. Just the support. Just the warmth moving between stone and skin as if the boundary has thinned. A gull calls once. The sound hangs in the air. Then silence returns. Not empty, full of wave sound and distance, and the small movements of a city breathing through its afternoon. Your eyes close. The light remains visible through your eyelids. Red gold. Warm. The Mediterranean still present even in darkness. The rhythm continuing. The 7 waves building and breaking, whether you witness them or not. The papyrus scrolls rest on the marble table. The reed pen lies beside them where Lysander set it down. The ink has dried. The manifest entries are complete. The shipping records are accurate. The oil lamps are dimming, the flame consuming the last of the oil, the light softer now than it was at midday, the shadows longer, the counting house settling into evening quiet. Your hands rest flat on the marble, the stone is cool, the day's heat has left the counting house. The night air moves through the gap between shutters, carrying salt smell from the harbor, carrying distant sound of waves. The exhaustion is not unpleasant, the kind that comes after completion, after every calculation checked, after every tariff accounted for, after the day's work balanced and recorded and sealed. The papyrus scrolls show 17 years of manifests, 17 years of cargo, 17 years of watching the purple sails arrive and depart. The records are complete, the patterns are visible, the system is functioning. Lysander's handwriting is perfect across every line. The Greek letters formed with precision that comes from writing 10,000 entries, from translating roots into records, from serving a system that took his freedom but uses his knowledge. The irony has faded, only the fact remains. The perfect handwriting, the accurate records, the sealed scrolls waiting for the harbor master's morning review. Your breathing has slowed, the urgency of dawn is gone, the pressure of tariff deadlines is released. Only the cool marble, only the dimming lamps, only the sound of Mediterranean waves in the distance. The contracts are sealed, the Iberian tin is secured. The bronze fittings are sold, the margins are acceptable, the suffet's representative acknowledged your competence. The system validated your 17 years of learning its rhythm. The counting house is silent except for the waves, the same sound that fills every evening, the same rhythm that carries through stone walls, the same certainty that tomorrow the purple sails will arrive again. Your eyes close without effort. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm, the exhaustion spreads through your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands that rest on cool marble. The papyrus scrolls are complete, the reed pen is at rest, the oil lamps are dying, the day is finished, the work is done, the empire continues. The Mediterranean keeps its rhythm. The breathing deepens, the stone supports your weight. The exhaustion releases everything that isn't breath and warmth, and the distant sound of waves arriving in their eternal pattern. The flame flickers once, steadies. The light trembles across the papyrus. The shadows move across the walls like slow breathing, like the room itself is settling into rest. The cool of the marble has reached your wrists now, your forearms. The sensation spreading upward without urgency, just presence. Just the slow equalizing of temperature between stone and skin. A dog barks somewhere in the lower city. The sound arrives thin and far, then fades. The silence after it somehow deeper than before. The counting house holding the quiet like water holds light. Your head is heavy, the weight of it against the high-backed chair. The wood worn smooth by years of sitting exactly here. The same position, the same end-of-day stillness, the same release. The waves continue their counting. 7 and 7 and 7. The pattern unbroken, the rhythm carrying through stone and air, through your body, through the exhaustion that has become something like peace. The merchant sleeps. The contracts are sealed in wax and clay, the manifests are complete, the ledgers balanced, the harbor master satisfied. The bronze tally sticks silent until dawn. The Mediterranean moves in darkness, 7 waves, 7 waves. The rhythm continuing without witness, without calculation, without anyone counting. The purple sails are furled at their berths, the cargo secured in warehouses, the tin locked behind bronze fittings, the spices waiting in their pyramids, everything in place until morning requires movement again. Carthage breathes through stone and harbor, through elephant pens and sacred precincts, through marble terraces and limestone walls, through 300 years of supremacy built into every measurement. The Greek scribe sleeps in quarters near the counting house, his perfect memory at rest, the routes mapped in his mind sailing through dreams of freedom, the knowledge serving even in sleep. The Suffet's daughter sleeps in the upper city, her marriage negotiations continuing in the space between waking and dreaming, her family's power flowing through trade agreements that will shape tomorrow. The harbour master sleeps with bronze tally sticks beside his bed, ready for dawn calculations, ready for the next shipment, ready for the system to resume its rhythm. Rome sleeps across the sea, small, distant, unconsidered. Not yet a threat, not yet a name that changes how Carthaginian merchants calculate risk. The empire sleeps in absolute certainty. The Mediterranean belongs to Phoenician ships. The trade routes belong to purple sails. The supremacy is eternal as waves arriving in sets of 7. The stone releases the last of its warmth into night air. The oil lamps die. The counting house darkens completely. The papyrus scrolls rest undisturbed. The breathing continues, deep, slow, synchronized with waves that arrive whether anyone watches or not, whether anyone calculates or not, whether anyone remembers or not. The merchant sleeps. The ledger is balanced. The margins are acceptable. The system is functioning. The empire is strong. The Mediterranean is eternal. The exhaustion is merciful. The night air moves through the upper city, through the counting house, through the gap in the shutters where the scent of salt water enters. The cool breath of the sea, reaching inland, reaching stone, reaching the merchant who no longer counts. The stars are out above Carthage, the same stars that guide the purple sails, the same stars that have watched the harbor for 300 years, the same stars that will watch whatever comes after. The breathing has become so slow it is almost stillness, almost silence, almost the same as the night air moving through stone corridors, through empty marketplaces, through harbors where the ships rest at anchor. Everything sleeps, the merchant, the scribe, the harbor master, the city, the empire, the exhaustion complete, the rest earned. The dreams already beginning to form in the space where calculation used to live. The merchant sleeping now, deeply, finally, completely.